Chapter 1227. Fong Ping sealed the void. At this moment, the sacred martial god and the other's expressions changed drastically. Kill Fong Ping! The sacred martial god shouted coldly and threw a punch at Fong Ping. This was Fong Ping's first time fighting with a beginner martial god. He wanted to test the waters, so he threw a punch too. Rumble. A loud explosion was heard. Crack. Fong Ping flew backward, dozens of meters, his right arm broken. His expression turned solemn. Defeated. This was the first time he collided with someone physically. His opponent did not defeat him with overwhelming strength, but with similar strength. His physique had completely defeated him, shattering his bones. Fong Ping's golden body, ninth refinement, was not weak. However, he relied on the amplification of the origin. His opponent relied on real physique. With one move, his bones were broken. For example, Fong Ping and the sacred martial god were like peaches that weighed 1 catty. They looked big but had a lot of water. The other was a stone that weighed 1 catty. It looked insignificant, as heavy as the peach. It would not be difficult to crush Fong Ping. This was the difference between them. This was why beginner martial artists could defeat origin martial artists of the same rank. The sacred martial god looked cold, not surprised. Outside, King Subduer's voice sounded ethereal. Kid, fighting with beginner martial artists is not like this. If you want to compete in physique, what's the point of walking the origin path? Heavenly King Zhen pointed out, beginner martial artists walk the path of the physical body, so their mental strength won't be too strong. You can use mental strength to suppress them, or origin to suppress them. Although they don't have origin is a kind of power, so naturally you can suppress them. If you walk the path of mentality, use your physique to suppress them. Their physique won't be too strong. Beginner martial artists who are strong in all aspects have mostly broken through 8. Origin is not completely useless. If that was the case, how could it have become the mainstream great Tao for the past 30,000 years? Don't always think that origin power is external. External power is also something that you have cultivated yourself. Don't easily deny an ultimate great Tao. As he spoke, Zhang Tao flashed and appeared in front of Fong Ping. He also threw a punch, fighting with the sacred martial god. On Zhang Tao's fist, golden light flashed. At the same time, origin energy erupted, and his fist trembled slightly. When the Saint Martial God attacked, there was also an explosion, and both of them retreated dozens of meters. Zhang Tao's fist was still trembling. The void around his fist shattered, but the power was leaking out. This was him diverting the force. Zhang Tao also smiled and said, "Kid, learn a little. You're still too inexperienced. Other than overwhelming strength, you might not be able to beat anyone with the same combat strength. Only by fighting can you win. If it really depends on strength, then it's meaningless." At this moment, no one else was in a hurry to make a move. Heavenly King Garrison and Dragon Morph were holding the line, while Fong Ping watched the battle with furrowed brows. Zi was healing her wounds quickly, so she did not participate. The remaining 3 beginner martial artists did not speak. The sacred martial god didn't say anything. He estimated the strength of the human clan's experts, which would be of great help in the upcoming battle, whether it was a fight to the death or something else. If the human race was not good at fighting, then there was nothing to worry about. Fong Ping's strength was not weak. He could feel it. However, Fong Ping's strength was scattered quite a bit. If they were to really fight, he was not afraid of Fong Ping, and he was also confident that he could kill Fong Ping. However, now that he was facing Zhang Tao, he was a little more serious. Zhang Tao, Heavenly King Garrison, and Old Man Li rarely taught Fong Ping anything in private. However, in battle, they would teach Fong Ping some things. At this moment, Zhang Tao was teaching Fong Ping. Beginner martial artists still have limitations. For example, this person has a strong physique, but because his physique is too strong, his mentality is weak, and he doesn't have good control over his body, so his movements are a little slow. Have you noticed? As Zhang Tao spoke, his figure flickered. The martial god's fist tore through the void and brushed past his head. Zhang Tao's body twisted as he hung upside down. He kicked the martial god's back from below, causing the martial god to stagger. The sacred martial god did not even turn his head. He punched downward at an extremely fast speed. However, Zhang Tao had already flashed behind him. His mentality exploded, condensed into a point, and instantly pierced toward the sacred martial god's head. The sacred martial god's head tilted slightly, but Zhang Tao's mentality turned and quickly attacked the sacred martial god's heart. Beginner martial artists, when it comes to the physique, the head is too hard. Don't fight it head-on. If you insist on breaking his head, then there's no need. Don't go to a dead end, for example, stabbing his heart. Before Zhang Tao could finish a sentence, the sacred martial god's flesh suddenly grew 2 arms from his back and lashed out with his fists in Zhang Tao's direction. The Tao of the physique was also ever-changing. The sacred martial god's physique had been cultivated to the state of perfection. Zhang Tao, on the other hand, was not flustered. We, the neo-martial artists, are considered to be moderate and not too biased. Perhaps we don't have as many techniques as the dedicated martial artists, but we definitely have a lot. We can handle all kinds of situations. Seal. Zhang Tao shouted softly. The Book of Great Tao appeared again. He did not intend to trap the sacred martial god, but turned it into a shield, blocking in front of him. The next moment, in front of Zhang Tao, suddenly a large number of bookshelves. The bookshelves in his origin world. At this moment, Zhang Tao was like an old pedant standing among the bookshelves. He laughed and said, "Neo-martial artists are not simply boorish. I told you long ago that the neo-martial artists are all cultured people. Don't be illiterate. Watch how I beat up a coward." In the blink of an eye, the bookshelves began to spin crazily, surrounding the sacred martial god. The sacred martial god shouted softly and smashed a row of bookshelves beside him with a punch. The next moment, he punched downward. Zhang Tao's chi movement. As the punch landed, Zhang Tao, who was below, suddenly collapsed. Spiritual body. Above, Zhang Tao's real body appeared. He held a bamboo whip and lashed downward. With a bang, the sacred martial god's head exploded with a dazzling light, but a bloody mark was still left on his head. In between his long hair, there was a bloody mark, as if his head had been cut in half. It was somewhat comical. The sacred martial god's face was ugly. He snorted coldly and attacked him again. Zhang Tao's voice was a little anxious. "Your physique is indeed very strong. It's very difficult to break it. Beginner martial artists dare to waste time with us. Origin martial artists, if they fight for too long, will run out of origin chi. This rarely happens, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Once it runs out, you're dead meat." However, beginner martial artists have their limits too. They need energy to replenish their vitality. Fang Ping, seal the void passageway so that the energy won't seep in. No matter how much energy he has, it's difficult to maintain such a strong physique. If his vitality runs out, he won't be as strong as us. The sacred martial god said coldly, competing with beginner martial artists in terms of energy consumption? If you fight with beginner martial artists in your origin Tao, unless you end the battle quickly, the one who will lose in the end will be your origin Tao. At their level, their strength was too strong. Just by breathing, they could absorb energy from the void to replenish their consumption. Origin chi was actually much harder to replenish. You make it sound like it's true. Zhang Tao appeared and disappeared mysteriously. He laughed. Don't listen to him. What they need is energy in reality. We have the ability to seal it. What we need is origin chi. They can't enter origin, so they can't seal it. In the end, we can more or less replenish it. They can't replenish it at all. That's why we're not afraid of them in a battle of attrition. Fang Ping nodded repeatedly. In the end, he said impatiently, it's a little troublesome. Just crush them with one punch. Is there a need to go through so much trouble? Zhang Tao's golden body was almost blown up by the sacred martial god's punch because he was out of breath. At this moment, he dodged hurriedly, scolding, "Can you King crush everyone all the time? You only know how to crush them. I taught you the real thing, but you don't know how to cherish it." Fang Ping laughed. "I know all about this. I just prefer a crushing battle. Besides, it's not like I don't know anything. This guy's flesh is very hard to destroy. It feels like he has forged jade bones. Old Zhang, if you used tremor force, wouldn't the effect be better? Are there internal organs made of jade too?" Zhang Tao was gloomy. "I didn't even break his golden body. How would I know?" Fang Ping continued, "Oh, right, in their path of physical cultivation, if their golden body is damaged, it will affect their combat strength. The impact is not small. Old Zhang, you can try self-destructing your golden body. If you blow up his golden body, even if the injury is a little more serious, we can recover. It won't affect our combat strength too much. Rumble." The sacred martial god was stunned. Everyone else was stunned. Old Zhang had really self-destructed his own golden body. With a rumble, the flesh and blood of the sacred martial god's arms were completely gone. His jade-like bones were exposed, and cracks appeared on his bones. A powerhouse close to breaking 7 had self-destructed his golden body, but it did not injure him severely. This had already proved the power of jade bones, but his flesh was injured. As for Zhang Tao, his mentality was like a real person. In the next moment, a large amount of imperishable matter condensed into a golden body again. It was slightly weaker than before, but the impact on Zhang Tao's combat strength was limited. At this moment, Zhang Tao said, "What you said makes sense. I self-destructed my golden body 10 times. My golden body can be considered half crippled. But my golden body isn't that strong to begin with. It's easier to recover. If it's him, I'm afraid I can blow him up until he's half crippled. However, the imperishable matter consumes a lot. Of course, we don't lack it. The stronger his golden body is, the more troublesome it is to repair. Fang Ping, this is a good move. It seems like you're not really ignorant." Zhang Tao still approved of Fang Ping's method. He tried it himself and blew up the sacred martial god's arms until they were half crippled. Zi, Wan, Long Huan, and the other 3 beginner martial artists were dumbfounded by this scene. Fang Ping's expression was matter-of-fact. Heavenly King Zhen was not surprised. They were all lunatics. The old lunatic met the young lunatic. If the young lunatic dared to say it, the old lunatic dared to do it. The sacred martial god's expression changed this time. He had encountered a difficult character, really difficult. Even if it was the origin lineage, it did not mean that he would be fine after self-destructing his golden body. The pain was secondary. If this continued, the golden body would become weaker and weaker. Recovering it was not a trivial matter. It might even consume and reduce his lifespan. It was not just him. At this moment, the other 2 beginner martial gods appeared. Near the old man who appeared earlier, 2 somewhat illusory figures appeared, a little translucent. This was not a mentality body, but a real body. However, the other party cultivated mentality, which had already caused some changes to his flesh. Both of their faces were a little pale. It was not because their expressions changed, but because they had always been like this. At this moment, all 3 of their expressions changed for a while. Human powerhouses were very difficult to deal with. Zhang Tao and Fang Ping were too young. Fang Ping was fine. When he fought, he looked more reckless. He probably did not have as much experience as they did. However, Zhang Tao was an elite who had been through thousands of battles. He was extremely experienced. When it was time to be ruthless, he would not be soft-hearted. His decisiveness was shocking. The golden body exploded without the slightest hesitation. At this moment, Zhang Tao was not idle. Countless bookshelves rotated at high speed. Zhang Tao's body became illusory, able to appear anywhere in an instant. This was his materialization. Where the materialization was, he would be. Zhang Tao appeared and disappeared like a ghost. Almost in the blink of an eye, he and the sacred martial god had exchanged tens of thousands of blows. Bang! With a loud bang, all the bookshelves disappeared. Zhang Tao's face was pale. He took a few steps back and broke the void. On the other hand, the sacred martial god's golden body was riddled with wounds. His vitality had already begun to slip. This scene made even some of the powerhouses who were watching the battle in secret frown. The sacred martial god did not break 7, but the difference was not big. Speaking of which, his vitality was definitely about 8 million calories. It was very powerful. Coupled with the boxing gloves that he had refined for a lifetime, a break 7 origin martial artist might not have much of an advantage when fighting with him. This was referring to those who had just entered break 7. Zhang Tao's limit was not much different from the sacred martial gods. Both of their combat strength were about the same. However, an origin martial artist could kill a beginner martial artist. It was shocking. One could even say that he had the bearing of an emperor. This was because among the same rank, those who could suppress beginner martial artists with the same combat strength were all peerless geniuses. If they could kill a beginner martial artist of the same rank, it meant that there was hope for them to become an emperor. How old was Zhang Tao? Everyone was shocked. However, Zhang Tao was panting. Difficult, very difficult. Fang Ping, don't underestimate these guys. They are more difficult to deal with than King Sun and King General. They have rich combat experience and high control of their strength. If it wasn't for their lack of mentality, they might be able to unleash their full strength. He was panting. The sacred martial god's expression was already frighteningly ugly. The pride of a beginner martial artist was shattered today. Before this, even if he was not as good as a break 7 or 8, he did not think that he was inferior to others. Now, how old was his opponent? With combat strength that was about the same as his limit, he was actually able to cripple his body. This was too unexpected. A human powerhouse. Zhang Tao could not be bothered with him. He panted, "I'll leave this guy to you. Try to exhaust him to death. I'll rest for a while. I'm getting old and can't hold on much longer." His words made the mouths of the people around him twitch. "You're getting old? Who are you looking down on? You're not even 100 years old. Who are you looking down on?" The sacred martial god's face was livid. Who did these people think he was? That he could fight and leave whenever he wanted? The next moment, the sacred martial god roared and charged toward Zhang Tao. At this time, Fang Ping appeared in a flash. He threw a punch and snorted, "Be a good whetstone. Die after you're done. Die." "Who's die?" Fang Ping roared. "Do you really think that I can't do anything to you?" At this moment, a huge city appeared. Sun City. Fang Ping had not used Sun City for a long time. Previously, he could not use it because it was integrated with the origin. Now, however, his origin was stable. Like Zhang Tao, his origin could descend into the real world. The world descended. The origin erupted, suppressing the sacred martial god instantly. Fang Ping kicked away some of the apparitions that descended with him. It was not a few. It seemed like there was only one. It looked like a person and was blocking the way. Old Zhang. Beside him, old Zhang's face turned green. "Is that me? Is that me? This kid? Is this how he treats me?" Many people could see it. At this moment, their gazes moved slightly. They did not pay much attention to old Zhang being kicked. At this time, many people looked toward the Sun City that had descended. Their expressions changed slightly. Some powerhouses looked solemn. What a realistic city. Objects that were integrated with the origin world were usually very illusory. However, Fangping Sun City looked like a real city. There were still people living in it. This was unbelievable. At this moment, the origin world descended. Fangping walked on the streets. Countless buildings were like real objects. With a casual wave of Fangping's hand, a tall building turned into a Changdao. Fong Ping swung the saber and hacked. Rumble. The sacred martial god was also erupting. He was furious, but he was somewhat suppressed. He wanted to destroy the city and severely injure Fong Ping's origin. The fist and the Chongdao collided. The Chongdao shattered and the fist vibrated. However, in the next moment, the sacred martial god had a headache. Countless buildings turned into tens of thousands of Chongdao hacking toward him. He had already been exhausted by Zhang Tao. At this moment, he was a little overwhelmed. At this time, a beginner martial artist whose body was slightly illusory moved. He was a mentality powerhouse. It was much easier for him to deal with Fong Ping's origin world. Mentality erupted instantly, engulfing heaven and earth as if to destroy the city. Flames, glaciers, floods at this moment. Mentality seemed to transform into countless scenes of natural disasters, engulfing the city. At this moment, Z let out a clear cry. Cat Palace descended, suppressing the void. Her figure moved and appeared in front of him. She said coldly, "Trying to bully me with numbers?" The illusory man's expression changed slightly. Zia was very strong. Although she was not at Breakthrough 7, with Cat Palace in hand, she was not weaker than a Breakthrough 7 powerhouse. Previously, the four of them surrounded her because they were worried that she would risk her life. They did not dare to force her to the end. Instead, they slowly exhausted her and weakened her. Z had consumed a lot of energy, but now she would not be any weaker than him. Obviously, he could not help the sacred martial god. At this moment, Fong Ping suddenly said, "I almost understand. All right, let's not waste any more time. Old Devilly, I'll leave the remaining two to you. Senior Z, that one is yours. Dragon Transformation, Heavenly Emperor. Old Zhang, come together and kill this guy." Everyone was stunned. Was this a little too straightforward? Fong Ping was slightly impatient. He shouted, "Hurry up! It's chaotic. Do you want to join in? If you kill him, I'll give you half of the jade bones." Many people were watching the show in the dark. Is he really going to fight to the end? If you go all out and kill one, the remaining three will be much easier to kill. Only a fool would fight one-on-one. If he fought one-on-one with the sacred martial god, even if Fong Ping could kill him and exhaust him to death, his own Tao would probably collapse completely. When that time came, what was the point of fighting? It was better to concentrate their advantage now. If the three great heavenly kings and chaotic joined forces, the four of them could kill the sacred martial god together. When the sacred martial god heard that, he could not help but yell angrily, "Shameless! Idiot, the four of you ganged up on Senior Zer. Why don't you call yourself shameless?" Fong Ping said angrily, "Are you all crazy? Ganging up on you is shameless. Ganging up on us is justice. Double label dog, I'll beat you to death. Go, what are you still watching for?" Fong Ping roared. Zhang Tao was already charging toward him. Dragon Transformation hesitated for a moment. He also returned to his true form in an instant and charged toward him. The old man and the other were about to attack when Heavenly King Garrison's voice sounded in their ears. He sighed. "Earth Cypress, Huan, both of you should rest for a while." The old man was called Earth Cypress, and the other was called Huan. At this moment, both of them looked at Heavenly King Garrison. After looking for a while, the old man suddenly said, "It's you." The powerhouses of the origin lineage might not all know Li Zhen, but there were not many gods of the beginner lineage who did not know him. The old man's gaze changed. He said coldly, "You want to deal with us? Is the beginner lineage really going to disband?" Huan's voice was also faint. "Garrison, you're not dead yet. Since you're not dead, why are you helping the humans?" Heavenly King Garrison sighed. "Humans are all humans, aren't they? The beginner lineage is human. The origin is human. We're all humans. It's not easy for both of you to live until today. Why do you have to get involved? Why do you have to get involved?" The old man said angrily, "The origin wants to destroy the beginner lineage. Do you see that, Jen? Do you see that? Now, there are still a few people in the three realms who walk the path of beginner martial. The roots of the beginner lineage have been broken. When all of us old guys die, the beginner lineage will disappear completely. Indignation, anger, resentment. The old man was indignant. He roared, "Do you see that? Are beginner martial really useless? Why do they have to do this to beginner martial? Are we wrong? Our orthodoxy is going to be completely destroyed. Even within the orthodoxy, the origin is seeping in. The path of beginner martial is going to be extinct. The 9 emperors forced us. They want to destroy the beginner lineage. No matter how strong the origin is, it can't replace the beginner lineage. You traitor!" Heavenly King Garrison had a complicated expression as he muttered, "Natural selection! Bullsh asterisk T!" The old man roared. If not for the 9 emperors destroying the beginner lineage and the heavenly court suppressing the beginner lineage, how could this happen? No one knows how the beginner lineage passes on the Tao. Tell me, is there really nothing good about the beginner lineage? When we created the martial path, the human race rose. We could fight heaven and earth, defy the heavens and change fate. Who remembers our achievements? Are we wrong? Pass on the Tao. Why can't we pass on the Tao? The origin is so domineering. As long as the origin is not destroyed, the beginner lineage will completely disappear in the long river of history. Tell me, who is wrong? The battle of the great Tao. The battle of the great Tao that had lasted for 30,000 years was mentioned again today. Heavenly King Garrison had a complicated expression. Origin, beginner martial. At this moment, Juan suddenly laughed. Earth Cypress, forget it. He has already walked on the origin. How can he still remember the beginner lineage? Since he wants to stop us, then kill him. A wave of mentality swept over. One world after another descended. It was not the origin world, but an illusory mentality world. It charged toward Heavenly King Garrison instantly. Earth Cypress was no longer sad and angry. He stretched out his hand and waved. The sea surface solidified. Endless seawater turned into walls, mountains, and boulders, blasting toward Heavenly King Garrison. Heavenly King Garrison's vitality erupted. His vitality was so powerful that countless worlds shattered and mountains were obliterated. Why bother? Heavenly King Garrison shook his head and kicked out. A boulder that was the size of a city was completely crushed by his kick, evaporating and disappearing. On the other side, the 3 powerhouses besieged sacred martial god. Fong Ping roared, "Chaos, cowardly guy, are you really not going to attack? This guy can't last for 3 minutes. If you don't attack, don't regret not giving you a chance." His thigh is much more useful than King Qian's. Chaos's figure appeared and looked around. He glanced at Heavenly King Garrison and said casually, "I think that old thing's thigh is more useful." Heavenly King Garrison was fighting 1 against 2. At this moment, when he heard this, he suddenly wanted to fight 1 against 3. Chapter 1228. Although the chaotic Heavenly King did not attack, Fong Ping and the other 2 had completely suppressed the sacred martial god. Fong Ping did not care about him anymore. He growled, "You guys suppress him. I'll fight him with my body and polish it. My body exploded earlier, and I'm not used to it. Coincidentally, I met him. You're almost done. Let me have it. My body has some flaws, too. Kid, don't kill me." Old Zhang added. His body had just exploded. He was not used to the newly forged body. This was not good. It would greatly affect his control of power. Dragon transformation was silent. Dragon transformation didn't make a sound. These 2 fellows weren't human. They never spoke human words. At their level, they would have some scruples. These 2 had no scruples at all. Every time they heard it, it was infuriating. He was considered one of them. Even he felt depressed when he heard it, not to mention the enemy. The sacred martial god's face was livid. His attacks became fiercer. Zhang Tao and the other 2 suppressed him. Fong Ping stepped forward to fight alone. In less than 30 seconds, the other party flew out. His chest was pierced. He fell outside panting. My body is too strong. It's like forging iron. I'll rest. Old John, you do it. As Fang Ping said that, his mentality erupted. His origin suppressed. Old John rushed forward quickly. Both of them decided to rely on him to polish their bodies. That was also fighting with their bodies and adding some origin. After a while, Old John flew out. He was also riddled with wounds. However, he said contentedly, "Continue." All right. Silence reigned in all directions. Some people frowned. They even felt a little sad. The sacred martial god was surrounded by the three of them. He had no choice but to become their whetstone. Now that he was being worn down, his power was gradually weakening. It made them sad. This was a beginner martial god. However, he was also in danger now. He could die at any time. Far away, Hung Yu stood on the surface of the sea. Behind him, a few saints arrived one after another. Including the two kings, there were a total of 11 saint-level powerhouses. They were also extremely powerful. Skyplant King said softly, "Sir, the 4 beginner martial gods are attacking, but they are outnumbered. If we help, maybe the 4 beginner martial powerhouses will." Hung Yu raised his hand and stopped him. "Attack! The humans will not let this go." Yes, once upon a time, the weak humans were feared by all parties. If they made a move, the human race would not let this matter rest. Tenchi said in a low voice, "Fang Ping and the others have offended too many people. If someone makes a move, perhaps, sir, perhaps all of them would take action, and the scene from before would repeat itself, teaming up to kill the human race." Hung Yu looked around. After a while, he retracted his gaze and said nothing. The saint martial god wouldn't die so easily. The Chu Wu lineage was very strong, but it wasn't as if they couldn't put up a fight. As for Heavenly King subduing, it was hard to say if he would go all out. Sacred martial. At this moment, the sacred martial god's aura had weakened, and his chi and blood were weak. The old man called Tu Bai had a sorrowful expression as he shouted. Then he suddenly smiled and said, "This world doesn't allow me to become a beginner. Then I'll reforge the world." As soon as he finished speaking, a loud shout resounded in all directions. "Let's join forces." The sacred martial god didn't say anything, but the other two started to move. Of the 2 experts who specialized in mental energy, one of them was currently dealing with but at this moment he no longer cared about her. With an explosive roar, his figure disappeared, and in the blink of an eye, a cloud of mist rose up. Split the heavens. Rumble. The mist rose and the void shattered. It was like chaos, the beginning of the world. On the other side, Huan also let out a low roar. Solidify the origin. The wind rose. The mist surged up, and the energy in the void surged toward them. Tu Bai also let out a low roar. Earth appears. Below, all the seawater turned into a piece of solidified land. Fang Ping and the others did not understand what was going on. However, the sacred martial god looked sorrowful, smiling bitterly. "Brothers, thank you very much." At this moment, the sacred martial god's aura grew stronger, but he did not continue to attack. He kept retreating, as if waiting for something. At this moment, Heavenly King, subduing, looked conflicted. On the other hand, R's expression changed drastically. Heavenly Emperor Dragon transformation roared hurriedly, "Quick! Break this world! They want to seal the origin and reforge the world." What? Zhang Tao was stunned. Dragon transformation roared, "They want to transform this world into a beginner world, a land without the origin. Quick, break the seal. Otherwise, the sacred martial god's flesh is invincible, and we'll all die." Having said that, he roared, "Heavenly King, subduing." At this moment, Li Zhen's expression was complicated. He said softly, "Why don't we forget it?" He did not say the reason. The three great beginner gods used their bodies to transform into heaven and earth, using their own strength to cut the origin universe. Once he made a move to break this world, the three great beginner gods might all die. In that case, for divinities would fall today. Tubai and the other two were already fighting with all their might. The three of them had transformed heaven and earth. If the sacred martial god, who had an invincible body, attacked again, he would be an invincible existence. But if that happened, heaven and earth would be broken, and the three of them might all die. This time, the heavenly king, subduing, really hesitated. He knew these few people. Some were first-generation beginners, and some were second-generation beginners. Tubai was an existence who created a Tao. He was the leader of the ancient humans. Yes, the leader of the ancient humans. Now, these people did not want the sacred martial god to die. They were fighting with their lives. They were also betting on a slim chance of survival, betting that Li Zhen would not make a move to break this world. The three powerhouses were betting with their lives. If this world was broken, the four great gods might all die here. But if they did not break this world, once the origin universe was really isolated, who could resist the sacred martial god with a physical vitality of 8 million calories? At this moment, Zhang Tao and the others understood. Zhang Tao punched the sky. The sky trembled, but it did not break. Fang Ping also roared angrily and slashed. Heaven and earth trembled again, but it still did not break. The three powerhouses exhausted everything to seal heaven and earth. How could it be broken so easily? If it was broken, the three powerhouses might all die. Fang Ping's expression changed. He looked at the heavenly king, subduing, and shouted angrily, "Luan Linzi, come quickly and kill the sacred martial god. I want to see if heaven and earth will be sealed first, or the sacred martial god will die first." Z drove the cat palace and descended quickly. Luan also said with an innocent look, "Why are you guys sealing the origin?" "I have no choice. If it's really sealed, won't it be dangerous? Then I'll have to steal your thigh." As soon as he said that, this fellow was extremely fast, as if he had been waiting for a long time to kill and steal their thigh. "Huan Xing, hurry up." Tubai's voice was extremely urgent. "Hurry up! Hurry up and cut off this world from the origin universe and return to the beginner world, the era without the origin." At this moment, heaven and earth roared again. Vaguely, mountains and rivers appeared in this small world, and the shadows of ancient beasts appeared. The three powerhouses were speeding up this process. It had nothing to do with time. What was sealed was space. Even the origin universe was not completely untraceable. Previously, Sherpa had broken the origin in the heavenly tomb, and the fake Tao had penetrated the origin universe. That universe might really exist. It was a gray haze. The battlefield seemed to be faintly discernible, about to disappear from this world. At this moment, someone appeared. The god creation envoy's avatar appeared and looked over, frowning. Old man Li's face was full of anxiety as he asked hurriedly, "What's going on?" He felt that it was a little familiar. This was somewhat similar to when his physical body entered the origin universe. Beginner's ultimate skill. The god creation envoy frowned and said, "Old man Li is hesitating. It's fine to kill a beginner powerhouse, but four beginner gods are fighting together. If they are not careful, all four of them will die. Now, I'm afraid he's hesitating." "What?" "It's to seal the origin universe." The god creation envoy said in a deep voice, "The origin does not really exist." Back then, in the battle of Myriad Tao, although Chu Wu was defeated, he did not know nothing about the origin. Who was not a proud son of heaven who had opened up a path. If he paid a huge price, he could sever the connection with the origin. Of course, it was also extremely dangerous. If he was unlucky, he would suffer a backlash and die. This is a choice made at the risk of death. Once it succeeds, the origin Tao will be suppressed in an instant, and the origin amplification will disappear. Old man Li's expression changed. The God Creation Envoy looked over and said in a deep voice, "Don't be anxious. Nothing might happen to Fong Ping and the others. For of them, 3 of them sealing heaven and earth might not be able to stop them. Once it's broken." Sigh. The God Creation Envoy shook his head and said, "Kid," Old Manly was a little speechless. "What did he call me? I'm not used to it." The God Creation Envoy ignored him and continued, "Some things are very complicated. Some people might be your enemies, but they are inextricably linked to us." Old Man Lee's hesitation did not mean that he chose Chu Wu, but you have to understand that some of these people were also his best friends back then. The God Creation Envoy's eyes were also complicated. "It's not just him. Sacred Marshal and I are not familiar with each other, Earth Cypress. This old man is actually also familiar with it." He sighed again. The God Creation Envoy shook his head. They had lived for too long. Sometimes they were different from the human race powerhouses. The powerhouses of the human race could firmly believe that they were all enemies. But could they really do it? However, he knew that the chances of something happening to the human race were not high. No matter how hard it was for the King of Suppression to choose, he would not watch Fong Ping and the others die. At the crucial moment, he would probably still make a move. As for how far he would go, it was hard to say. The God Creation Envoy was not thinking about this. But after today, if Fong Ping, Zhang Tao, and the others did not understand, something might happen to the human race. The King of Suppression hesitated at this juncture. If the 2 of them could not figure it out, they might part ways. However, the King of Suppression also had his difficulties. Zhang Tao might still be able to understand, but with Fong Ping's personality, he could not tolerate any sand. It was really hard to say. At this time, Old Manly said anxiously, "Senior." The God Creation Envoy raised his hand and interrupted. "This old man is only an avatar. It's useless to make a move now. Don't worry if the 3 beginner martial gods want to seal many heavenly kings. They might fail very soon and suffer a backlash." While they were talking, in Fong Ping's source world, the Emperor's path was turbulent. It was as if there was an invisible force blocking the origin at the end of the Great Tao. It was not the method of blocking the path from the origin, like the sky-sealing lineage, but at the end of the path. It was not only him, but the others as well. At this time the King of Suppression spoke again. "Tu Bai, give up. Disperse. Fong Ping, how about we stop this time? 5 saints have been killed, and this matter has been settled." Fong Ping did not say a word. While the Emperor's path was not sealed, he gritted his teeth and attacked the sacred martial god crazily. Zhang Tao was the same. He went all out, his murderous aura shaking the sky. At this time, Luan Na also took the opportunity to kill the other party crazily. Not only that, but he also smiled and said, "Don't worry about the great Tao of origin. It's fine. Let's kill him first." These few newbie idiots also sealed that old fart in this world. They want to break the origin, all of them. If they can't break that guy, it's all in vain. They can't seal us. Later, these 3 fellows will be killed by the recoil of his origin. As soon as he said this, the King of Suppression laughed bitterly and did not say a word. Tu Bai and the other 2, on the other hand, shook violently. Heaven and earth shook. They really somewhat forgot. Yes, because the King of Suppression did not really attack, they subconsciously overlooked some things. If they wanted to break the connection of their origin, they would have to break the entire small heaven and earth. But the King of Suppression was here. Could they break the King of Suppression? Fong Ping and the others were also stunned for a moment. Was that so? The King of Suppression spoke again. "How about we let this matter go?" Fong Ping gritted his teeth and snorted. "They want to kill the cat. How much has the cat helped the humans? If that's the case, then I won't let it go. If someone wants to kill you today, I won't let it go. It's not because the cat is on good terms with me that I have to kill all its enemies. It's because the human race can go this far because we don't abandon anyone. The cat is the human race's benefactor, so we have to help. I don't care if you don't treat yourself as a human. If you are in danger in the future, I, Fong Ping, will not stand idly by and watch, no matter how strong the enemy is. If you let it go, will they give up on killing the cat? They think that the cat is the foundation of the origin. I don't care about your fight for the Tao. Whoever kills the cat, I'll kill them. The king of suppression sighed again. Some things were still fundamental disputes. The human race would not give up on the cat. Similarly, the Chu Wu lineage that was forced to this point would not give up on the idea of killing the cat. Such a contradiction could not be reconciled. And now, Chu Wu was probably going to be defeated. With him here, the three Chu Wu gods could not seal it. He firmly believed this. They could seal him, but the three of them could not. If they could not seal the origin, the three of them would still suffer from the backlash. Facing the siege of so many powerhouses, the sacred martial god would not be able to hold on for long. Defeat was certain. The king of suppression did not really care about killing the sacred martial god. He was not very familiar with him. Who cares? But Tu Bai and the others were old acquaintances. Thinking of this, the king of suppression felt a little helpless. Forget it. It was hard to persuade them. Fong Ping and the others would not give up so easily. In the next moment, the king of suppression's origin erupted and the world trembled. The small world that was gradually taking shape rumbled, and the world trembled. Uft! The three of them appeared, and the sky fell and the earth cracked. Tu Bai and the other two were pale. One by one, they returned to their true forms and looked at the king of suppression with grief and indignation. The king of suppression felt that he was still very innocent. He spread his hands and said, "Don't look at me like that. I didn't ask you to seal me. You just had to seal me here. What else can I do?" As he said that, the king of suppression blasted out a punch. The void shattered and turned into a cage. The three of them were instantly trapped. They suffered from the backlash and were seriously injured. At this moment, they were suddenly trapped. The king of suppression roared, "Go!" Rumble. The cage-like void world, carrying the three of them, broke through the world and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. The world was quiet. The king of suppression coughed dryly and said, "Don't look at me. That's it. I've exiled the three of them into the void. I don't know which heavens they have gone to. They won't be coming back anytime soon." As he said that, he looked at the sacred martial god, extremely miserable and also extremely indignant. The king of suppression said again, "We're not familiar with each other, and you asked someone to attack Li Changxing first. Don't blame me if you kill him. That's not right. I'm not familiar with you. Whether you die or not has nothing to do with me." Then he said again, "Fong Ping, kid, don't blame me for letting the three of them go. If I didn't let them go, you might not be able to kill them. There are still some beginner antiques alive. There are some at the heavenly cemetery, and there are also in this misery. If you really kill the four beginner immortals, then you'll completely fall out with them. The origin has enough enemies, and it's enough. The sacred martial god attacked first. If he killed them, then he killed them. No one can say anything about it. I'm not someone to be trifled with." But the other three surrounded and killed Lin Zi. They're people from the Spirit Emperor's side. This is considered a continuation of the battle between the origin and beginner immortals. Humans shouldn't get involved. The king of suppression said a few words. Then he looked around and said loudly, "The humans are just seeking survival. At this point, it's not that easy to destroy them. Everyone should be more or less done. If you insist on starting a war, then you're not afraid of anyone. The sacred martial god is probably dead. For the sake of the past, I'll let Tu Bai and the other two go. Everyone take a step back. Those who should disperse, disperse." At this moment, the void trembled, heaven and earth split open, and a human face appeared in the sky. The king of suppression, the sacred martial god, can't die. This matter ends here. It's time to stop. The king of suppression looked up at the sky, a little helpless. "I say, there's no need for you guys to get involved just because someone dies, right? Isn't the sacred martial god's master, fire god dead? He has no background or backing. If he's killed, then he's killed. Why are you guys getting involved? The king of suppression is a beginner immortal. The king of suppression dug his ears, feeling even more helpless. Can you give me some face? I've already lost a lot of face. Back then, I was considered a respected figure in the sacred martial god lineage. I've been in the human race for 8,000 years. I've watched these kids grow up. That's not right. I've watched their ancestors grow up. I can be considered their ancestor. The king of suppression nagged. Look, after letting the three of them go, they're all unhappy. If I let the sacred martial god go, wouldn't I be forcing them to fall out with me? It's not easy to be an ancestor to this extent. As he spoke, the sacred martial god grunted. Crack! One of his thighs was directly torn apart by Luan's hundreds of punches. Luan hurriedly retracted his thighs, beaming with joy as if he didn't see the face in the sky. The sacred martial god also grabbed his arm and broke it with a crack. Luan didn't care too much. His golden body was still golden, but jade bones were not easy to recover. The sacred martial god had almost lost this leg forever. If he wanted to forge a jade bone thigh again, he didn't know how much of a price he would have to pay. In the sky, the illusory face showed a hint of anger and growled, suppression. Since you won't stop him, I'll stop him myself. The king of suppression touched his chin. His action was somewhat similar to old Zhang's. He didn't know if he learned from old Zhang or old Zhang learned from him. That it's not good for you to come personally, right? It's all the juniors playing around. How old are you? The king of suppression said, don't come. This place is very dangerous. Hong Kuin, Hong Yu, Sea Suppression, and Weapon Master have all broken through 8. Li Zhu, Palm Print, King Qian, and Heaven Chief have all broken through 7. If you come alone and get killed, it'll be troublesome. It's better for you to stay home. The world was shaking. Obviously, the face ignored him. He could watch the sacred martial god be killed just like that. Although there were many beginner martial gods, they weren't everywhere. Back then, too many of the myriad Dao powerhouses had died, and there weren't many left now. Over the years, 40 to 50 of the more than 70 main bloodlines had been destroyed. The sacred martial god inherited the bloodline of the fire god. This bloodline was also one of the leaders of the beginner martial gods. The fire god did not kill the cat because of a personal grudge. In the end, the fire god was killed. Because of the existence of the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors, no one helped, but the other bloodlines more or less owed him. In the past, they watched the fire god be killed. Now, if they watched the sacred martial god be killed, the beginner martial gods would really decline. At this moment, the sacred martial god couldn't hold on anymore. There were too many. Chaos at 7, Zi'er and Zhang Tao at peak 6, Fang Ping and Dragon Transformation at 6, with so many people attacking him. How could he be a match? He was still holding on because there was still hope. Someone was going to make a move among the leaders in the depths of misery. Back then, when the myriad Dao fought, the powerhouses who appeared were all beginner martial leaders. There weren't too many of them, but there were still quite a few. Many of them were killed by the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors. After that, some were trapped in the heavenly cemetery. However, there were still a few who were sleeping in the depths of misery. Today, a leader had been alarmed. This person was going to make a move. The void was torn apart. The sky split open, and a pitch-black passage appeared. A faraway continent of unknown location appeared on the opposite side of the passage. In the center of the continent, an old man with the same face as before slowly walked out of the continent, walking toward the passage. At this moment, Fang Ping turned back to take a look. With this look, he was slightly stunned for a moment. He was not looking at the old antique who wanted to intervene, but at someone behind the old antique who seemed to be familiar. In the depths of misery, on a continent, at this moment the sky was torn apart. An old man walked in the air, wanting to go over there to rescue. At this moment, there were many people floating in the air behind him. Each of them wore a look of respect. Each of them was extremely powerful. In the crowd, a tall and burly young man was also among them. At this moment, his mouth was wide open, a little sluggish. F***CK, I've already walked so far, but I can still see Fong Ping and the others. How many tens of thousands of miles of the void did I have to go through? Li Hansong's mouth was slightly open. Was he hallucinating? Also, that fellow Fong Ping. What kind of strength did he have? Why did he feel so powerful? And Li Hansong looked around, his eyes sorrowful. Could he leave? He was so scared. There were so many powerhouses in this place. He kept feeling like they had discovered his identity and would kill him at any time. Should he just crawl into the passage and run away? He really had the urge to escape. This place was too dangerous, especially the one who was walking toward the passage now. How powerful did he have to be? When he first came here, he did not know how long he had walked. He was chased by the demons all the way. Anyway, his speed was not slow. He flew for a long time before he came here. This person directly tore the void and tore it to Fong Ping's side. How powerful did he have to be? Just as he was thinking about this, at this moment, the Heavenly King opposite him sighed and said, "They really don't give me any face. I was in a good mood today, but each and every one of you just had to provoke me. Who did I offend?" The Heavenly King complained like a resentful woman. "Each and every one of you don't like me. I'm very innocent, okay?" The next moment, the Heavenly King sighed again and said, "If you don't give me face, then I won't be polite. Old man, you're also my elder. I won't beat you to death today." At this moment, between heaven and earth, almost everyone saw a fist. Yes, a fist appeared in everyone's mind. They did not see it, but they sensed it. The three realms seemed to be trembling. In the next moment, under Li Hansong's dazed gaze, the powerful beginner leader who was stepping into the passage was sent flying backward with a bang. Rumble. Below, the entire continent was disintegrating. Countless people were affected and instantly annihilated. Near Li Hansong, several powerhouses instantly erupted and roared. With all their might, they stabilized the continent and protected the disciples in all directions. Patriarch! Quick, go check on the Patriarch! Below, a lake with a circumference of several hundred kilometers appeared. It was not a lake, but a sea. The old man flew backward and pierced through the continent. At this moment, the continent had been pierced directly through to the Forbidden Sea. This was because the old man had forcibly restrained all the energy fluctuations, which was why the entire continent had not been destroyed. At this moment, the powerhouses near Li Hansong all revealed shocked, anxious, and terrified expressions. So powerful. With one punch, he sent the Patriarch flying, destroyed the passage, and almost destroyed this continent that had existed since ancient times. Who was that person? Below, in the lake, the old man slowly floated up. Pooh! A mouthful of bright red blood sprayed out. The blood dripped into the sea, and the entire lake turned blood red. The old man looked at the broken passage and suddenly laughed self-deprecatingly. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared on the spot. The sacred marshal was dead, invincible. Damn it, they're not giving me face. At this moment, Heavenly King subduing cursed. He had already said to give them some face. It would be good for everyone. Why didn't they give me face? Why did they have to provoke me? Was there any meaning to it? Heavenly King, subduing, did not look at the surrounding martial artists. He could not be bothered to look. However, all the martial artists were looking at him. Even the despairing, sacred martial god was looking at him. What kind of strength was this? He had sent a beginner leader flying with one punch. The beginner leaders were all supreme experts. Chapter 1229. The three realms fell silent. Everyone fell silent. Fong Ping and Zhang Tao also widened their eyes, looking at the old man not far away. Was he still human, sending a junior martial artist leader flying with a single punch. Just how strong was this old thing? Fong Ping's teeth were sore. What was wrong with him? Back then, Heavenly King Garrison had a hard time fighting catacombs. He was powerless against a few peak powerhouses. Now you're telling me that you can even fight an ultimate powerhouse? Are you kidding me? Heavenly King Garrison mumbled to himself. Seeing that Fong Ping and the rest were looking at him, he asked doubtfully, "Why are you all looking at me?" Dragon Transformation turned away hurriedly, not daring to look again. This old man was too strong. It was needless to say that he was an ultimate powerhouse. The key was how far he had gone on the path of breaking 8. He could not estimate this. Far away, Hong Yu frowned. Beside him, the saints were also dumbfounded. After a long while, someone said in a low voice, How strong is he?" Hong Yu frowned slightly. After a while, he said lightly he should still be breaking 8. "But I'm afraid he has improved a lot." The junior martial leader who was sent flying just now was Sky Arm God, who proved his Tao with his body. He did not prove his Tao with his entire body, but his arms had broken through the limit. Among those breaking 8, he was not considered the top. He could not compare to the other junior martial era leaders, but he was still a top powerhouse. Heavenly King Garrison might have broken through 2 doors. As Hong Yu spoke, his gaze changed. This old man had shown a lot of his strength earlier. He fought against Sea Guardian and King Qian alone. Sea Guardian had also broken through 8, but not long ago. The strength that Heavenly King Garrison had shown before was also very strong, but not to that extent. Now he had sent Sky Arm flying with 1 punch. Although it was related to Sky Arm's carelessness, it was enough to prove that Heavenly King Garrison had reached the limit. "Li Zhen!" At this moment, the other junior martial leaders also murmured, "Strong!" In a one-on-one fight, with everyone's current strength, no one could defeat him. No, maybe someone could. A weapon master at his peak. A cat palace chief at his peak. Both of them had killed ultimate powerhouses. In the last battle in the Heavenly Realm, the weapon master had unleashed all his strength and killed an ultimate powerhouse at the cost of his life. Cat Palace Chief Tian Chun had done the same. He had perished together with Fire God. To be able to kill a supreme expert, this was the embodiment of strength. However, the 2 of them had not yet recovered to their peak, especially the weapon master, who had just recovered. If they really fought, he might not be a match for the Heavenly King suppression. If there was a ranking system for breaking through the 8 levels, the weapon master, Tian Chen, and Heavenly King subduing Heavenly King would probably be 1 level higher than the others. As for King Kuin and the others, although they had broken 8, they had yet to truly display their invincibility. If he was truly invincible, even Luan wouldn't dare to provoke him. Didn't they see the chaos now? They didn't even dare to look at Heavenly King Jin. Previously, he had wanted to break this old fellow's thigh, but now he didn't dare to look at him. He hoped that the Heavenly King Zhenwang would forget what he had said before. All was silent. The sacred martial god was also in despair. He was dead meat. At this time, Fong Ping chopped off his other leg with 1 slash. In the blink of an eye, he tore off both of his arms and snatched his boxing gloves. Zhang Tao and the others were waiting for Fong Ping to kill this person and announce their return. Fong Ping sent the half-crippled, sacred martial god flying with a kick. Everyone was stunned. Fong Ping's expression was calm. He looked at the sacred martial god whose limbs were broken in the void in the distance and said coldly, "According to my past habits, I must kill all my enemies. But today, I'll spare your worthless life. It's not that I'm afraid of you. I'm giving your Chu Wu leader a way out. I'm giving Heavenly King a way out. Killing the 5 saints of the Saint Martial continent is considered as collecting interest for your attack on the humans. Get lost now, or I'm afraid I won't be able to hold back and kill you right now." Fong Ping turned around and walked away. Zhang Tao raised his eyebrows slightly. Fong Ping said without turning his head, get lost. If you don't get lost and get killed by others, don't blame me for not giving face to the Chu Wu lineage. I won't deny killing people, but if some people want to frame me, don't think it'll be so easy. If the sacred martial god dies today, it has nothing to do with the humans. The humans won't even bother to deny killing a broken 6 beginner martial artist. In the distance, the sacred martial god's expression changed. He did not waste any more words. His limbs grew again, but they were no longer jade bones. Without another word, he tore the void and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Luan was eager to make a move, but he soon calmed down. The heavenly king Zhanwang was still there. Everyone was stunned again. Fang Ping did not kill the sacred martial god. In the dark void, Li Zhu frowned slightly, eager to make a move. He wanted to kill the sacred martial god, but in the end he frowned and did not make a move. The Chu Wu leader might not have completely stopped paying attention to this place. It was not a good thing to make a move now. There were others who wanted to make a move, but after careful consideration, they gave up in the end. The heavenly king Zhanwang looked at Fang Ping in surprise. This kid did not kill the sacred martial god? He thought this guy would not stop until he killed someone this time. For a moment, the heavenly king Zhanwang was in a daze. This guy was giving face? That was not right. Why should he care if he gave face or not? The heavenly king Zhanwang cursed in his heart. What a kid who sails with the wind. I just unleashed my strength. Are you scared, kid? Now you know how to give face? Fang Ping Zhang Tao caught up. He glanced at Fang Ping and suddenly laughed. You've matured. Don't praise me. Fang Ping curled his lips. I didn't kill him not because of maturity. It's to let old devil Li continue to work for the humans, lest he becomes dissatisfied and runs to other camps. Also, I didn't plan to kill a broken 8 martial god. There's no need to provoke a broken 8 martial god now. As for the sacred martial god, he's a peak broken 6 guy. His jade bones were broken. It might take him 1 or 2 years to recover. 1 or 2 years. 1 or 2 years later, I can kill him easily. Also, those 3 guys looked like they were going to die together. Now that I've killed the sacred martial god, if those 3 guys haven't been sent away, I can kill them all. If they've been sent away, there's no need for me to kill one alone and leave 3 big problems. Fang Ping said this without holding back. The heavenly king Zhanwang wanted to roll his eyes. Also, the humans are powerful. How would the sacred martial god dare to continue looking for trouble with us? Unless he's really tired of living. If he wants to find someone, who do you think he'll find? Fang Ping smiled. Senior Z? He's a descendant of Emperor Spirit, a good friend of the humans. But someone isn't. Not only is he not, but he's also a wanderer in the 3 realms. He's all alone. Yet he dared to get involved in this kind of war, and even tore someone else's leg. Old Zhang, if the sacred martial god wants revenge, would they look for us first or that person first? At the back, Luan looked around and finally looked at the leg he was holding in his hand. His face was blank. Are you talking about me? I think you're talking about me. Mother asterisk cur, what do you mean? Old Zhang could not help but laugh. He continued, that's true. He's offended many people. King Kuin, King Qian, the sacred martial god clan, and the heavenly dog have also been offended by him. Strictly speaking, the humans aren't on good terms with him either. He attacked and killed Songmao back then. Now that you mention it, I understand. That guy is the kind of person everyone wants to beat up. He's also a sh*t stir. He doesn't have much strength. Although he's not bad at breaking 7, he's offended quite a few breaking 8. If the sacred martial god clan wants to vent their anger, they have to get rid of him first. Fang Ping smiled. That's why I let sacred martial go. If he's dead, then the sacred martial god clan will definitely be extremely hostile toward us. However, sacred martial god clan didn't die, so we've given them some face. They want to vent their anger, but can't find an outlet. Who do you think they can look for? That sh*t stirrer. Exactly. Fong Ping nodded. Old Zhang also kept nodding. It made sense. The two of them echoed each other, causing Wan's face to turn ashen. He could not help but curse. Are you two trying to scare me? Do you think I'm afraid of their revenge? Fong Ping ignored him. He looked at Heavenly King, subduing, and smiled. Senior Li, Heavenly King, subduing, raised his eyebrows slightly. Did I hear wrongly just now? He didn't call me Old Li. Does that sacred martial god clan leader have the confidence to kill the sh*t stirrer? Heavenly King, subduing, thought for a moment and said, Of course he can kill him in a life-and-death battle. However, Wan can also run. He's quite good at escaping. Otherwise, he would have been killed by the Heavenly Dog back then. If the other Heavenly King powerhouses from the sacred martial god clan attack together, can they kill him? Of course they can. Heavenly King, subduing, smiled. There's no need for more. There are 4 gods like that today. Seal the void. Luan won't be able to escape. If Heavenly Arm attacks, it shouldn't be difficult to kill him. The sacred martial god clan suffered a setback as soon as he came. If he kills the sh*t stirrer, can he establish his dominance? Heavenly King, subduing, smiled again. You're right. Although Heavenly Arm isn't my match, he's still a powerhouse. After suffering a setback today, I'm afraid everyone from the sacred martial god clan will be anxious. Killing a Heavenly King who has broken 7 ranks and is a prodigy of the chaotic era, should be able to restore their confidence. Does that mean that the sh*t stirrer will definitely die? Heavenly King, subduing, nodded and smiled. More or less. He has nowhere to run. If he goes to the Tomb of Heaven, the Heavenly Dog and the others will beat him to death. If he goes to the depths of the Forbidden Sea, that's Heavenly Arm's lair. If he goes to the catacombs, Hong Yu, Hong Kuan, and the others will probably tear him apart. If that's the case, there's indeed nowhere to run. However, if he finds a place to hide, he might be able to survive. Fong Ping smiled. Then let him hide. He's been hiding for thousands of years, anyway. It doesn't matter if he hides. Enough. Luan could not help but growl. His cheeks were trembling. He snorted. Who dares to kill me? Do you think I'm weak? You want to rope me in? Dream on. Fong Ping smiled. Rope you in? Then there's no need. We don't know how many enemies there are. We don't want to cause trouble for us. Humph, you speak as if you don't have any enemies, Fong Ping interrupted. Of course we have a lot of enemies, but we have the Heavenly King. At least for now, no one dares to fight the Heavenly King to the death. What are we afraid of? Fong Ping turned around and looked at Luan. He grinned. Are you going to continue to roam the 3 realms? Or are you going to the humans to lie low? You must know that we're under a lot of pressure to take you in. I'm not going. Luan did not even think about it. He rejected him directly. I'm not going to live under someone else's roof. He was a powerhouse who had broken 7 after all. He was not a beginner either. Otherwise, he would not have dared to fight King Kuan to the death. He did not believe that a powerhouse like him would need to live under someone else's roof to survive. Fong Ping smiled. Up to you. But then again, when you're surrounded and killed, don't regret your decision today. If I were the Chu Wu lineage and had the ability to kill you, I wouldn't give up. It's not just me. Hong Kuan and the others are the same. Who asked you to be a sh*t stirrer? Of course, they might try to rope you in, but you still have to work hard for them. In fact, you don't have much conflict with the human race, but you have enmity with other parties. I don't think you have much choice. Fong Ping sighed. Those who have broken 8 have a big nest. You're just a guy who has broken 7. You're weak and have no one to support you. You still want to roam the 3 realms as you did in the past. You're really too naive. Also, did you notice? Most of those who have broken 8 have forces and territories. Maybe this has something to do with them breaking 8. Luan scolded. Who are you trying to fool? Does that stupid dog have it? Fang Ping said lightly, Of course he does. Tengu and Song Mao are on the same side. Song Mao has friends all over the world. Of course, he's on the same side as Tengu. Look at the Sea Guardian. He controls misery. The Heavenly King suppresses the humans. King Kuan controls the divine sect. The leader of Chu Wu controls the Chu Wu mainland. The weapon master controls the old heavenly court. Hong Yu controls the land realm in the past. Now he's also rebuilding the heavenly court. Do you think those who have broken 8 don't want to roam the world alone? Why do they control their own forces? Is it because of power? I, who has only started martial arts for a few years, have some understanding. The great Tao doesn't exist alone. At their level, they've probably sensed something. The great Tao will eventually return to one. Return to one. You've always been one. How can you return to one? Return to the person, the heart, the Tao, and all living beings. You, Heavenly King Chaotic, are still a notch lower than them. Even Li Zhu understands this. That's why you've been holing up in the Catacombs Palace. As soon as he said this, the Heavenly King Suppressing looked at Fang Ping in surprise. Chaotic was also stunned. Was this for real? Fang Ping grinned. It doesn't matter if you believe it or not. Try it. If you go on like this, it'll be very difficult for you to break 8. On the contrary, I'm afraid the powerhouses from all forces will improve rapidly in the future. Think about it carefully. If you're done and the humans come, I can confer you the title of Chaos Suppressing Envoy. People like you are the most suitable to suppress chaos in the world. Because you're the biggest chaos. Fang Ping's words were so messy that he wanted to beat him to death. You're the chaos. Am I as messy as you? However, at this time, Chaotic was still a little unconvinced. Looking at the Heavenly King Suppressing, he asked suspiciously, Breaking 8 really requires gathering a big force. The Heavenly King Suppressing laughed. I don't know about this, but since ancient times, powerhouses who broke 8 alone, the Heavenly King Suppressing thought for a long time and shook his head. I don't think so. The 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors are also like-minded people. When they were young, they went on expeditions everywhere. When they first became supreme, they each led a region. Perhaps you can break this rule if you prove your Tao to be the strongest by yourself. Chaotic thought about it carefully and cursed in his heart. It seemed like there wasn't. Even the stupid heavenly dog had many good friends. Could it be that vagrants really couldn't become supreme? Bah! Your whole family are vagrants. Chaotic scolded again in his heart. Did he have to create a force himself? Chaotic had a slight headache. Was there a need to do this? Was it so troublesome? At this moment, Fang Ping no longer cared about him. He looked at Zi and smiled. Senior Lin, Old Cat has been talking about you for a long time. Senior's injuries aren't light. Why don't you come to the human realm and rest for a few days before thinking about other things? Lin Zi glanced at him. She had a feeling that this human king's smile was somewhat malicious. However, she was indeed heavily injured. The 3 realms was getting more and more dangerous. Thinking of this, Lin Zi nodded slightly. Thank you for your hospitality, human king. Senior, you're too kind. Fang Ping turned to look at Long Huan. Senior, the catacombs are in chaos now. The exit of dragon transformation seems to be inside the catacombs. Senior has always been in alliance with humans. Be careful not to be plotted against. Why don't you move dragon transformation to the human realm? We can take care of each other. Long Bian nodded with a smile, agreeing to it. Fang Ping looked at Gong Juanzi, who was outside. Senior Gong Juanzi was just about to speak when Fang Ping interrupted him. We can still talk about what happened before. Senior Long Huan just happened to come to the human realm. Let's talk and get to know each other. Maybe there's something to talk about. Long Huan looked at them suspiciously. What did that mean? Did it have something to do with me? Gong Juanzi avoided his gaze. He cursed in his heart. Fang Ping was trying to coerce him. If he didn't come, he would tell Long Huan that he wanted to ride him. How could he not go? Gong Juanzi was helpless. Then I'll go to the human realm too. I haven't been there for many years. Fang Ping laughed. Very good. They were all gathered in the human realm. There would be more powerhouses among humans. With more powerhouses, it would not be a problem to strengthen the defense. Not only these people, but he was also prepared to continue spreading the news and hook up with a mortal-seeking island. Who was Xie? She was a descendant of Emperor Spirit. Immortal-seeking island now had two saints. One was Kai Dai and the other was Nun seeking immortal. She also had the strength of a saint. This was not a small force. After calculating for a while, Fang Ping's eyes revealed a smile. The strength of humans had skyrocketed. Not only that, he glanced at Heavenly King, subduing from the corner of his eyes. This old guy was the scary one. No one could figure out how strong he was. Not killing sacred martial god today had a lot to do with Heavenly King subduing. Killing sacred martial god was to establish dominance and to eradicate the opponent. However, Heavenly King subduing sent the Chu Wu leader flying with a punch. This was not necessary. Moreover, the Chu Wu lineage was stronger than Fang Ping imagined. They had to be united. Tu Bai and the others actually dared to fight alongside sacred martial god. No one fled. There was also a broken 8 who attacked. Just because of this, Fang Ping knew that he could not easily kill the Chu Wu deity now. Otherwise, he might provoke the entire Chu Wu lineage. After weighing the pros and cons, although Fang Ping acted rashly, he was not really stupid. Not to mention provoking a great enemy. Heavenly King subduing might not be happy. Now that he let sacred martial go, Heavenly King subduing would feel comfortable. After feeling comfortable, he might still feel embarrassed. The humans had always been decisive in killing. Because of him, he let go of a Heavenly King's great enemy. This was giving him face. Moreover, the Chu Wu lineage was intimidated. They might not find trouble with the humans in the short term. After thinking about it, Fang Ping finally chose to give up on killing Sacred Martial. It was not worth it. Fang Ping let Sacred Martial go. All the powerhouses' thoughts were in turmoil. The humans had succeeded in establishing their dominance today. They easily killed 5 saints, almost killed all 4 Heavenly King powerhouses, and sent a broken 8 powerhouse flying when he tried to stop them. With such strength, without 2 powerhouses above broken 8 attacking together, they could not do anything to the humans. Before this, the humans had always been the target of besiegement. Now, however, it might not be. At least, no one could restrain Heavenly King subduing in the short term. It should not be. The powerhouses understood that the next step should be entering a period of moderation, waiting for all the powerhouses to recover, waiting for all the powerhouses to stabilize their forces, waiting for all the powerhouses to unite. This was the mainstream next. The 3 realms, which had been at war for many days, was probably going to enter a period of peace. At the cost of many powerhouses' death, the 3 realms had reached a temporary balance. This was also what the human race wanted. However, Fang Ping and Zhang Tao knew that the hidden danger was still there. Not only was it there, but it was even more dangerous. Old Devil Li sent a broken 8 powerhouse flying with a punch. Zhang Tao transmitted his voice to Fang Ping. I'm afraid he'll be in a lot of trouble next. For a powerhouse like him, now that there are no powerhouses of the same rank as him standing on his side and surpassing others, the other broken 8 powerhouses will definitely not sit back and watch. King Kuin and the others will definitely contact all parties to fight against Old Devil Li. Today's attack may feel good, but very soon it may create a situation that will urge all parties to join forces. Fang Ping's expression changed slightly. He transmitted his voice. I know, but today's attack has also bought us some time, a period of moderation. The old guy probably knows that this will happen. Now he's probably hoping that we can grow up quickly. Before all parties join forces, if we also have broken 8 combat strength, then there's nothing to be afraid of. It's okay. If it really doesn't work, I'll send Cat to the Sky Cemetery. There are still 2 broken 8 powerhouses there, so we might not be afraid of all parties. Skyhound and that person from the Cat Palace might not help the humans. I know, but their interests are still aligned. At the very least, they will help Cat to hold back the Chu clan, right? That's true. Old Zhang nodded. Even if Skyhound and Tianqin did not help them, they would still deal with the Chu clan because this clan wanted to kill Cat. Fang Ping continued to transmit his voice. You should break through the 7th level as soon as possible. After breaking through the 7th level, if you can rope in this fellow, you guys still have hope of fighting against a person who is not that strong. As for the God Creation Envoy, I will go and probe again. Maybe I can completely rope him in. After saying that, Fang Ping pondered for a moment and continued. The key is still the humans themselves. Right now, they are all external help. It's too difficult for the humans to rely on just the few of us. These old antiques might not always be on our side. You saw it today. Old Devil Li is a little hesitant. This is still an acquaintance. You have to know that he still has a teacher. Who knows if his teacher is dead or not? On the human side, it's enough to produce a few Heavenly King powerhouses as soon as possible. Zhang Tao was helpless. It's too difficult. New martial arts 100 years with him and Fang Ping. It was already beyond imagination. If they wanted to produce a Heavenly King, how could it be so easy? Jiang Hao has hope. He is the reincarnation of the Devil Emperor. Although the Devil Emperor cut off all contact when he died, he had felt everything before and knew everything about a Heavenly King. He has hope of advancing to a Heavenly King in a short period of time. Fang Ping continued. Old Wang and the others might have a chance. You should have seen it today. That fellow Ironhead has sneaked into the Chu mainland. He is even by the side of that supreme powerhouse. I think there might be some gains. That kid is too bold. Old Zhang also sighed. Li Hansong was too bold. He had sneaked into the side of a broken 8 powerhouse. Was he not afraid that his identity would be known and he would be crushed to death? Fang Ping continued. In the past 3 months of battle, everyone has actually improved. I actually sensed something before and tried the ability of Dao. You should be able to have some resonance with these powerhouses. You are strong, they are strong, but you don't seem to have given anything back to them. There's nothing back. Old Zhang said gloomily. I felt it. It almost sucked me to death. I can't even protect myself now. How would I dare to give back anything? I have it. There's no hurry. Fang Ping chuckled. It's not just you. Although my great Dao has collapsed, the source world hasn't. Some of my abilities can still be used. I'll also try to give everyone some feedback. This way, the humans will enter a period of rapid development. Fang Ping said this and said, when we go back, we'll ask old Devil Li for some good stuff. I don't believe that he, a broken 8 powerhouse, doesn't have any assets. Think of a way to empty him. Ask him to fight on par with anyone. Who is he trying to fool? At the very least, we have to ask him to find a way to promote Commander Li. No, there's also Warlord. One is a descendant, and the other is an adopted son. If we don't give him any benefits, we'll pester him to death. Old Zhang could not help but laugh. At the back, Heavenly King Subduer was receiving some people's worshipping gazes. At this moment, he suddenly looked at the 2 people in front of him. He had a bad feeling. Did this old man's performance today was a little too powerful? Were these 2 black-hearted fellows scheming against him? Heavenly King Subduer's eyes flickered. Maybe this old man should find a place to go into closed-door cultivation for a while. When these 2 black-hearted fellows got together, he felt that although he had lived for a long time, He might not be able to win against them in scheming against them. Chapter 1230. May 6th, Fang Ping entered the fake sky cemetery. May 11th. 5 days later, Fang Ping walked out of the fake sky cemetery. In just 5 days, the world had been turned upside down. On this day, Fang Ping, King Wu, and the rest returned back to Earth, at the entrance to Mount Imperial Sea, from Star Town. When Fang Ping and the others walked out of the catacombs, the group of people opposite them were excited and some were sad. Dead. Many people had died. More than 50 desperation powerhouses had entered. Now less than half were left. On Star Town's side, many people had come, including Jiang Hao, Jiang Chao, and the rest. Everyone received the news that the human powerhouses were about to return. They had all come here to wait. However, at this moment, seeing the powerhouses bathed in blood, seeing that more than half of the powerhouses were gone, everyone still looked sad. More than half of Star Town's 13 elders were dead. The Yang family, the Su family, the Chen family, the Jiang family, the Lu family, one by one, the elders could no longer be seen. If Star Town was like this, needless to say, the other parties had suffered heavy losses. Among the more than 20 surviving powerhouses, Zhang Weiyu, Nan Yunyue, Wu Chuan, Tianmu, Zhao Xingwu, Qin Yaozu, and Kong Lingyuan, the 7 younger generation powerhouses, were all alive. This also meant that they occupied a large number of the survival list. Including the other elders of Star Town, there were more than 10 surviving powerhouses on Sino Nation's side. The other 5 sacred lands added together, there were only about 10 surviving powerhouses. The losses were unimaginably heavy. Low sobs could be heard faintly. Even though some descendants had already discovered that the elder's life statue was broken, they still had some expectations. But now their hopes were shattered. They were really dead. Sorrow began to spread. Fang Ping did not say anything this time, nor did he stop the spread of sorrow. Close to 30 human powerhouses had died in battle. The powerhouses who had protected humanity for hundreds of years had fallen one after another. It was time to give everyone a chance to grieve. After being stubborn for so long, even he was tired and exhausted. If it was a place with no one around, Fang Ping would want to cry. Kill. There was no end to the killing. Battle after battle, risking life and death again and again. He was also tired. Old Zhang and the others had been in the Sky Cemetery for the past few months, battled the domain zones, the Church of the God of War, the catacombs, the revived sages, the Sealing Heavens faction, and everyone else. He had to be first in every battle. He also wanted to rest, but he had no choice but to fight. If he didn't fight, who else among the humans could? Again and again he was tired. Now that he had returned to Earth, old Zhang and the rest were by his side. Heavenly King, subduing, and the rest had also returned. Fang Ping's essence, qi, and spirit were a little exhausted. For a moment he was in a trance. Fang Ping. While he was in a daze, Wu Quishan called out to him with a worried expression. Everyone is looking at you. Say something. At that moment, Fang Ping's dazed expression affected everyone. Zhang Tao and the Heavenly King were both worried. Fang Ping was no longer the MCMAU, student of the past. He was no longer the silly kid who only knew how to get into trouble. Now he was still a human king. Even if the great Tao collapsed, he would still be the current sovereign personage. In the past few months, Fang Ping had created too many miracles. During those few days in the fake heavenly tomb, he slaughtered his way out of the human race's name, obtaining the acknowledgement of those at the peak of the older generation. This was the current generation's human king, the king of the human race. Zhang Tao was also strong, but compared to Fang Ping, Zhang Tao lacked some of his sharpness. It was because of age and the era. In that era, the human race needed people like Zhang Tao to maintain stability. In this era, the human race needed people like Fang Ping to fight against enemies from all directions. Fang Ping came back to his senses. Looking around, everyone was looking at him. At this moment, the martial king did not hide his brilliance. The heavenly king did not hide his brilliance. The third-generation guardian of the human race, Fong Ping. Fong Ping restrained his emotions and revealed a smile. He smiled brightly. "We've won. We've returned victorious once again. I don't know how many times I've come to announce the news of victory, but I still want to say that the human race has won. The martial king, the heavenly king, and the other human heroes have returned. We've defeated powerful enemies from all directions. We've defeated the Grandmaster, the Catacombs, the ancient heavenly court powerhouses, the beginner martial artists from 30,000 years ago, the saints, and the heavenly king. Today, I don't want to talk about the news of victory. I want to say something else." Fong Ping's voice spread in all directions, echoing between heaven and earth. "Victory, victory after victory has made the human race numb, making people feel that the human race is really invincible. But I don't want everyone to be blindly happy, blindly confident. In the past 3 months, the human race has lost 31 desperate realm powerhouses in battle. As for the human race, in the past hundreds and thousands of years, the number of desperate realm powerhouses accumulated is less than 60. Fong Ping's voice reverberated in all directions, his tone impassioned. "More than half have fallen. These seniors, the martyrs, have protected the human race for thousands of years. Today, not even their bones remain. We can't even collect their bodies. Everyone, the human race, please remember them. I hope everyone can remember them for the rest of their lives. At least, you have to know who's protecting you, who's sacrificing their lives in exchange for today's peace and prosperity. In the past few months, the martyr seniors who have fallen, the human race Sword King, the human race Sun God, the human race Great Pharaoh." Fong Ping reported the names one by one, recounting their lives one by one. Born as a human, fighting in neo-martial arts, dying in neo-martial arts, dying for the human race, dying for protection. 31 desperate realm powerhouses. Some came from sects, some came from ancient times, some even had unknown origins. It didn't matter, they only had one identity: the human race's martyrs. Sobbing sounds reverberated in all directions. At this moment, some were crying, some were choking. In less than 3 months, 31 paragons had died in battle. The joy and joy from before vanished into thin air at this moment. Fong Ping's voice was still ringing in everyone's ears. "We're very tired, very, very tired. The powerhouses in the past 30,000 years have awakened one by one. We can still fight, still dare to fight, not afraid to fight. But we want to rest for a while. Is there anyone else in the human race who can fight? We need the strength of the new generation. We need the strength of our companions. We need support. We need replenishment." In Fong Ping's voice, exhaustion was revealed for the first time. "The more the seniors fight, the fewer there are. I don't wish that one day these seniors who have silently protected the human race for countless years only appear in the history books. I want some of them to live on. But now there are fewer and fewer. The paragons of the 6 great sacred lands are almost all dead. We can still fight, but we don't know how long we can fight. My compatriots, rise up. We are waiting for you in the future. We are waiting for you to fight together, to protect together." On this day, Fong Ping did not say too much about killing enemies and obtaining rewards. On this day, the King of Humanity showed signs of fatigue. They could still fight until the end of their lives. But those seniors were getting fewer and fewer, so few that they were about to wither away in this world. They needed the emergence of the new generation of powerhouses, needed their strength to continue the conquest, to pass on the torch of humanity. On the 11th of May, Fong Ping and the others returned. They brought good news and bad news. The human race mourned together. Magic City. Fong Ping said some things in Capital City. Without further delay, he returned to Magic City and returned home. The other powerhouses also returned to their respective clans or sacred lands. Everyone needed to rest for a few days, have a good sleep, and eat a good meal. For hundreds of years, they almost did not sleep a day, did not eat a good meal. The sun shone brightly. Fong Ping slept for the whole day. No one came to disturb him, no one came to look for him. He slept like that until noon on the 12th. Fong Ping had not had a good sleep for a long time. This time, he slept especially soundly. The human world was a paradise. Walking to the window, he felt the warmth of the sun, enjoyed the gentle breeze, and closed his eyes, enjoying this rare moment. At this moment, King of humanity and heavenly kings were all forgotten. If that cat did not use its tail to sweep his nose so annoyingly, Fong Ping felt that this kind of life would be very happy. He opened his eyes. In front of him, the cat's paws were on the edge of the balcony, its big tail sweeping around, staring at Fong Ping, its face full of grievance. Fong Ping was helpless. He patted its big head. What now? Chu Wu was defeated. You're not in danger now. Why are you disturbing me instead of sleeping? The cat said aggrievedly, Meow, liar, they bullied me. The fake human emperor took my cat nest and didn't give it to me. That old girl took my cat palace and refused to return it to me. I have a cat palace and a cat nest, and now I have to sleep on the grass. How pitiful! Fong Ping said patiently, Cats are born and raised by the earth. The earth is their bed and the sky is their blanket. This is the life a cat should have. It's not normal for a cat to live in a cat palace. You're an old cat. You should know how a cat lives. Big cat, don't worry about your cat palace and cat nest anymore. Needed divine weapons to increase her combat strength. Old Zhang needed a cat nest. He was prepared to dismantle the cat fruit to make some divine weapons and provide some natural treasures to human powerhouses. Letting a cat sleep was the biggest waste, especially that beast emperor skin. Heavenly King Jin said that he was going to find a god-crafting envoy to make a set of armor, a top-grade armor. Maybe it could be made into a demigod or even a divine armor. Why would it continue to be a temporary residence for the cat? Although this was originally the cat's, Fong Ping felt that it should not be wasted on Big Cat. The cat's paws were on the balcony, its head raised, full of sadness. Was that so? Would this cat have to sleep on the grass in the future? The cat palace and cat nest were all gone? Fong Ping chuckled. Don't be sad. It's gone. After a few years, no one will need it anymore. Naturally, it will be returned to you. All right. The cat muttered. Forget it. It did not want it anymore. Sleeping on the grass was actually quite good. Fong Ping did not continue this topic. He stretched and asked, Since yesterday, has anyone looked for me? With the cat here, Fong Ping really did not pay attention to any movements yesterday. He just slept soundly and did not care about those things. However, asking the cat was obviously a waste of time. From yesterday until now, the only thing this cat did was ask for the cat palace and cat nest. In the end, it was rejected. As soon as Fong Ping woke up, he came to complain. Fortunately, someone sensed the recovery of Fong Ping's qi. Soon, from afar, someone transmitted his voice. Fong Ping, come to Sky Island for a meeting. The person who transmitted his voice was Zhang Tao. Fong Ping was sleeping soundly. He really did not sleep, nor did he rest. He had not returned for a few months. From yesterday until now, he had been dealing with some human matters. In the few months that Fong Ping oversaw the human race, he really did not pay much attention to these. Fong Ping was only in charge of the battle. He did not care about anything else. You're disturbing my peace. Fong Ping curled his lips. It was rare for him to rest for a day. This fellow was like a death sentence, looking for him as soon as he woke up. Fong Ping seriously suspected that this fellow had been monitoring him. Without saying anything more, Fong Ping flew out of the window. Behind him, the big cat's tail curled around his thigh and floated forward with him. Fong Ping turned around and took a look. The old cat muttered, I'm going to listen too. The pseudo-emperor said he saw Spirit Emperor, but he refused to tell me. He insisted on telling you only after you woke up. I'm so angry. He's not the pseudo-human emperor now. Fang Ping laughed. My emperor path has collapsed and merged with him. He should be considered a true emperor now. No way. The cat retorted. He's definitely not a true emperor. He's only the emperor of the neo-martial artists. He's not the emperor of the entire human race, unless he unifies the three realms. Immortals and gods were all humans. Fang Ping was slightly moved. The real emperor. Was he the master of the three realms? He really did not care much about these. According to the cat, even if old Zhang was the emperor of the human race, he was actually not the real emperor? Fang Ping did not say much. He dragged the lazy cat and flew toward Sky Island. The cat was so lazy that it made people's hair stand on end. It was too lazy to fly, so it hung on Fang Ping's thigh. Fang Ping was strong now, otherwise he might not have been able to drag it. The cat seemed to be a little attached to him. Fang Ping roughly knew why. In the Battle of Chu Wu this time, the human race did not give up on the cat. The cat had lived for so many years. No matter how stupid it was, it still understood. In the past, besides Fang Ping, this cat almost never had any contact with others. But now, it took the initiative to ask old Zhang for a cat nest. This was actually a kind of closeness, because the human powerhouses had started a war with Chu Wu because of it. On Sky Island, at this moment, powerhouses were as numerous as clouds. Heavenly King Old Zhang, dragon form, Z-Air, Saint-level Heavenly Wood, Gong Zhuanzi, even Emperor-level Li Changsheng, Li Zhan, War King, Shen Haotian Mingting, and Sika Deer who had transformed into human form, as well as Wu Quishan and the other desperation powerhouses. Some of them had returned, while some had to continue staying behind. Jiang Hao, who had not spoken much, was also among the crowd. In the hall, the seats were arranged messily. Everyone sat lazily without any rules. War King glanced at Jiang Hao a few times. A few times he wanted to speak, but he did not say anything. This state had been maintained for a while. Zhang Tao glanced at the two of them, chuckled, and said, thinking back a few years ago, on the human side, other than Heavenly King suppression, there was not even a single emperor level. Now, in just a few years, the human race powerhouses are as numerous as the clouds. I'm also happy, War King interrupted him directly. What's the use of saying all these pompous things? The human race's crisis has not been resolved yet. What's there to be happy about? Zhang Tao could not help but laugh. If you have a temper, don't vent it on me. This is your own family matter. Solve it yourself. What family matter do I have to solve? War King curled his lips, too lazy to say anything. He did not want to talk about Jiang Hao's matter now. Since unquestionable Jian had died in battle, then he would take it as unquestionable Jian had completely fallen and disappeared from the world. Jiang Hao, that was his, Jiang Tianming's descendant. There was no point in talking about it. As the few of them were chatting, Fang Ping walked in carrying the ash cat. He casually tossed the ash cat aside, not caring about it. The ash cat fell to the ground, rolled over, and continued to lie on its stomach, not making a sound. On the other side, when Lindsay saw this scene, her eyelids twitched. This cat was about to become a family pet now. She remembered that in the past, it still had a little temper. Now that Fang Ping was ravaging it like this, it did not even resist. If her aunt was still here and saw Fang Ping tossing the ash cat out like a sandbag, who knew what she would think? Fang Ping did not care about this. He cupped his hands at everyone, found a seat and sat down. Yawning, he asked, "What's going to be discussed in today's meeting?" "Be more presentable." Old Zhang chided, but did not bother much. Very quickly, he said, "The situation of the three realms, the future trend, the human race's response." Fang Ping looked around and asked, "Old devil, he didn't come?" He said he was injured, so he went to heal. Old Zhang shook his head. Warlord sneered. "He's probably afraid of being tricked by you too, so he went into hiding." Injured? How could he be injured? He sent a powerhouse who broke 8 flying with 1 punch. This old thing is not a good person. If he had erupted earlier, Old Chin and the others would not have died. Li Zhen raised his eyebrows slightly, but did not say anything. Zhang Tao shook his head, saying, "Don't talk about these useless things. I'm afraid he has his reasons for not going all out. Moreover, if he was really unbeatable at that time, I'm afraid all the heavenly kings of the neutral sex will stand on the opponent's side. No matter how strong he is, he can't deal with all these people alone. The consequences might be even worse." At this moment, when Lin Zi heard that, she explained, "The situation of the 3 realms is still a little complicated. Uncle Zhen did not go all out before because it was a taboo. Now that there are many heavenly kings, and those who broke 8 have also started to show up and become active, he only dared to go all out. If it had been like this back then, Uncle Zhen might have been in trouble." Fang Ping said in surprise, "Uncle Zhen?" Lin Zi smiled and said, "Martial Uncle Zhen's master is Senior Yangshin. Senior Yangshin had also taught my aunt, who is Spirit Emperor in the past. When I was young, Uncle Zhen went to Spirit Emperor Palace. I met him, so I've always called him Uncle." Fang Ping gritted his teeth. His seniority was really high, which also meant that he was really old. Zhang Tao did not care about this. He frowned slightly. "Trouble? We've seen his strength. Even a powerhouse who broke 8 was not his match. What trouble could there be?" Lin Zi said in a low voice, "The 3 realms is not that simple. Since 10,000 years ago, the top-notch powerhouses have been making arrangements. None of those who participated were weaker than Uncle Zhen. The 3 realms has always maintained a balance. There are strong and weak forces in the 3 realms, but until now, no one has been completely wiped out. This is not a coincidence, but a necessity. Someone is maintaining the operation of all this. They will not allow some people to interfere and scrupulously change the situation and destroy their arrangements. Uncle Zhen should know something, so he can't be too conspicuous. Otherwise, it's hard to say whether there are still humans today." Fang Ping frowned. "Someone is hiding in the dark? Someone who can deal with suppressing Heavenly King?" Lin Zi thought for a while and said, "It's possible. All these years, I've wandered the 3 realms and stayed in misery for a long time. 3,000 years ago, I participated in the war that destroyed the earthly emperor god dynasty. You stole my cat palace to participate in the war. Shameless." The cat suddenly muttered and continued to sleep. Lin Zi was speechless. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. "What do you need the divine weapon for? It's a waste. Besides, my participation in the war back then had something to do with you." Lin Zi said impatiently, "If it wasn't for my aunt asking me to take care of you before she left, do you think I would care about you? I didn't want to participate in the war 3,000 years ago. My main goal was still junior martial artist. I wanted to seal the connection between junior martial artist and the 3 realms." Lin Zi continued, "However, there was news that the earthly emperor's avatar wanted to kill the cat." The cat muttered again. "Everyone wants to kill the cat. The cat is eating your family's food." Lin Zi was helpless. "Don't talk so much. I've never seen you so talkative before. Killing you is something you ask for yourself. You offended so many people in the past. After my aunt passed away, who didn't want to kill you, 3,000 years ago, there was news that the earthly emperor wanted to change the world and rebuild the 3 realms. If he killed you, the origin would be shaken and the world would change. Perhaps there would be an opportunity. I didn't pay much attention to it at first. But soon, there was news that the heavenly hound died in the heavenly tomb. At that time, I sensed that something was wrong. Once the heavenly hound died, something might really happen to the cat. That's why I came to the land realm. I took the cat palace and hid in the dark. When the war broke out, the earthly emperor's avatar was besieged. At the critical moment, did you really think he was waiting for death?" Lin Zi said, "That day he really wanted to find you. It was probably the same as the news I received. He probably wanted to kill you to see if there was a chance to turn the situation around. When you were ambushed, King Kuin took the opportunity to advance his origin greatly. Many people knew about this. At that time, the earthly emperor's avatar should be Hong Yu, probably at the peak of Break 7. If he killed you, the origin would be shaken. The gate of sealed path might be shaken too. He might be able to take the opportunity to break one of the gates. Once he breaks 8, it won't be so easy to kill him. It won't be so easy to be besieged in the land realm. That's why I chose to attack that time. I didn't give him a chance to find you. Everyone looked at Lin Zi. Lin Zi was not trying to show off. Instead, she said in a low voice, the earthly emperor's avatar might want to kill the cat. I didn't think about this before. The powerhouses of the 3 realms probably didn't think about it either. If he really was the earthly emperor's avatar, it would mean that he didn't need to use the cat's death to shake the origin. The person who spread this news probably knew that he was a fake and needed this opportunity. This news came too suddenly. I don't even know where I heard it from back then. There must be a powerhouse secretly guiding me to find out about all this. That's why I said that the situation in the 3 realms is very complicated. Back then, there must be someone who didn't want Hong Yu to succeed. That's why he led everything. As for Hong Kuin, I don't know if he was influenced by someone or something else. He had a lot to do with Hong Yu's failure. Led a heavenly king? Fang Ping raised an eyebrow. Old Zhang frowned too. If that's the case, there's a powerhouse hiding in the dark? Could it be a powerhouse with mentality? Lin Zi nodded. That's possible. His ability won't be lower than breaking 8. That's why I feel that Master Jin has his reservations. It might even be one of the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors secretly guiding all of this. Master Jin has been hiding for so many years. He must have sensed something. He's extremely powerful. Maybe he knew something long ago. Zhang Tao nodded. Interesting. A long time ago I said that there might be a group of balancers in the 3 realms. I guessed that people like Old Devil Li and Li Zhu might be balancers, maintaining the current development of the 3 realms. Now, it seems that might not be the case. People like Old Devil Li are probably part of the scheme. The real balancers might be 1 or even a few of the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors. Fang Ping did not care about this. He said lazily, "So what? Schemes usually don't end well. They usually nurture a group of people who can kill them. If these people want a scheme, let them. I don't think they can do anything about it." Old Zhang, this information is useful, but not very useful. Don't worry too much about it. The most important thing now is to improve the overall combat strength, as well as to form alliances, rope in some people, and fight against others. Tengu, Cap Palace's seneschal, Sherpa, these people's combat strength must be released. As for the chaos of beginner martial artists, who cares? Defend Earth first. Others can be discussed later. Beginner martial artists come out and run amok. I don't believe that King Kuin and the others can sit still. There's no need to trap the human side's combat strength. If they're unlucky, everyone will be unlucky. That dog's brain is not clear. When it wakes up, it drags people to the heavenly cemetery. Its intelligence is limited. Among the crowd, Lin Zi, Longbian, and the others twitched their mouths. Only Fang Ping dared to say this. Tengu was not here. Otherwise, 1 man and 1 dog would have beaten the dog's brain until it exploded. Fang Ping said again, "Recently, Old Zhang, you'll be in charge of internal affairs, and I'll be in charge of external affairs. On one hand, we can improve our combat strength. On the other hand, we can seek help from some allies. We can rope in the Spirit Emperor bloodline, the Beast Emperor bloodline, the Emperor bloodline, and the Emperor God bloodline. Also, guide the situation. Don't focus on us. The new heavenly court has been established in the catacombs. If we make a fuss about this, there might be a good show to watch. When I get back, I'll look for Feng Yun and make a Feng Yun list to expose the catacomb strength. 11 saints. I don't think it's all of them. Even if it's all of them, we have to fake some. Let Hongyu be busy for a while, lest that fellow schemed against someone. At this point, Fong Ping asked, "You said that you met Spirit Emperor. What did Spirit Emperor say?" Everyone looked at old Zhang. Lin Zi and the cat looked at him hurriedly. Zhang Tao smiled and said nothing much. First, there might be traitors among the 9 emperors. Whoever is alive might be one. Second, there's a flaw in the imperial path. What flaw might be related to the origin path? Third, let the cat think more about her. That's about it. Lin Zi was a little disappointed. Seeing this, Zhang Tao said casually, "Oh right, I also mentioned Senior Lin. Let Senior Lin find Sherpa and rope him in to protect the cat. That's about it." Fong Ping secretly curled his lips. If this was said by Spirit Emperor, he would write his name backwards. Old Zhang was lying with his eyes wide open. He knew old Zhang's character, but Lin Zi did not. She dared not believe that someone would simply fabricate the words of an emperor. At this moment, she did not suspect much and believed it. Old Zhang did not care about this. Seeing Fong Ping looking at him with contempt, he scolded him telepathically. "What are you looking at? I'm saving them. The human race is so strong. It's so dangerous for them to move alone. When we go to the human race in the future, we can take care of each other. Right? I'm also leaving a descendant for Spirit Emperor to repay him." Fong Ping nodded. That made sense. Forget it. Whatever you say. Fong Ping also felt that following his side had a better future. What old Zhang said was right. It was a white lie. P.S. Only 2 chapters left. The plot will ease up a little. Fighting every day, fighting until I'm about to explode. Chapter 1231. The situation in the 3 realms had eased up. At the very least, there were no more battles on the surface. In the dark, there was still a storm brewing. On the side of the catacombs, the establishment of the new heavenly court had also caused a stir in the 3 realms for a while. Many people had not returned previously. Now that they had returned one after another, it was also a secret struggle. Over at the catacombs of the close to 200 true god powerhouses from before, there were heavy casualties this time. Less than 1/3 survived. But even if it was only 1/3 of them, there were still 50 to 60 true god realm experts. Among them, there were 1,000 Goblin King, Heaven Goblin King, and other emperors. Not only the catacombs, but the grandmasters were also being reshuffled, and so were the overseas immortal islands. There were also many emperor-level experts from the outer seas, immortal islands, and the sky beyond skies. This time they returned one after another, but the situation was different from before. Now, some of the outer seas immortal islands were even occupied by experts who had recovered. Chaos was inevitable. The chaos was not as obvious as before, but the battles in the dark were continuous, while Fong Ping and the others were having a meeting. The catacombs. In the end, Hongyu chose to step forward and walked up to the stage. Hongyu had not expected it to happen so quickly. It was too fast. According to his thoughts, the fake heavenly grave would need to be maintained for at least half a year or even a year. That was the normal amount of time. For experts of the older generation, half a year or even a year passed in the blink of an eye. So many people went in, the situation was chaotic, and everyone was wary of each other. Was it difficult to drag it out for a year or so? However, the truth was beyond his expectations. A few days after Fong Ping entered, the fake sky grave opened completely. This also messed up some of his plans. Heavenly Palace. This was where the new heavenly court was located. During these days, the 9 saints were also undergoing modifications. Imperial Court's area began to expand. Immortal mist swirled about, energy liquefied. All types of heavenly materials and earthly treasures were transported here. Large amounts of energy mines were moved here. Compared to the bounded domain that Fong Ping had envied in the past, this place now looked more like the immortal world. The 9 saints ruled the catacombs. and no one dared to resist. A large number of female martial artists were sent to the heavenly court as tributes by the four forces. They were not forced, but voluntarily, and the quota was even hard to come by. It was like a talent show in ancient times. This was more exciting than a talent show. A group of invincible experts was establishing the celestial court, and they were in need of manpower. It was also a chance for them to reach the heavens in a single step. The catacombs were huge. There were many of the four major royal halls, dynasties, and divine sects. The previously desolate and uninhabited celestial palace was now filled with beautiful women. They shuttled back and forth within the celestial palace. The golden age had reappeared. It was the same for the celestial heavens of the past. Groups of powerful martial artists clad in golden armor patrolled the heavenly palace. Among them were experts from various corps in the catacombs and some immortal court army of the earthly emperor god dynasty. The batch of immortal court army in the king's battlefield was the last batch of immortal court army. However, some soldiers of the immortal court army who followed Qing Mo and the other temple masters survived. Not only that, the heavenly sword and the other ancient sages also found a group of sleeping heavenly court divine army in some small worlds. At this moment, these ancient military martial artists all gathered in the new heavenly court. The prosperity of the new heavenly court had arrived. Sage, venerable sovereign, true God experts were as common as clouds. There were many heavenly kings among the various factions of the three realms. However, there were far fewer experts at other stages than the heavenly courts. At that moment, Hongyu sat high up in the throne room. Below him, 11 sages stood on either side of him. The civil and the military ruled separately. At this moment, the governor looked excited. The emperor had returned. Yes, Hongyu was their emperor, the emperor who had ruled the three realms for 3,000 years. Back then, the earthly emperor god dynasty ruled the three realms and was invincible. Who dared to disobey them? However, 3,000 years ago, experts from all sides attacked and finally destroyed the powerful earthly emperor god dynasty. From then on, all the experts of the earthly emperor god dynasty wanted to restore the immortal court. The governor, Qing Mo, and the others had been wandering the three realms for many years. A few days ago, they had received Hongyu's message and met him once. They had already confirmed his identity. At this moment, they saw Hongyu sitting high up on the throne. The governor looked excited, clad in armor and helmet. He held a golden crown in both hands as he walked up to the platform step by step. He half knelt on the ground and shouted, "Your Majesty, the heavenly court has been rebuilt and the three realms are revered. We are willing to die for you. We are willing to die for you." At that moment, many sages walked down from their thrones and half knelt on the ground, their faces filled with excitement. 3,000 years ago, the earthly emperor god dynasty was about to completely unify the three realms. At that time, they were at the peak of the immortal court realm. Everyone thought that the three realms would become one in the next moment. However, on that day, experts attacked and destroyed all hope. At the periphery, some of the immortal court army's experts also knelt on the ground. The sound of armor colliding was especially clear as they roared, "We are willing to fight the three realms again for the emperor!" Again and again and again and again. Whether they were the earthly emperor's clone or Hongyu, they only remembered how glorious the earthly emperor god dynasty was in that era and how much the emperor loved his people. Those 3,000 years were the most peaceful era in the three realms. In those 3,000 years, countless commoners rose to power. In those 3,000 years, the emperor racked his brains, defeated enemies everywhere, suppressed chaos, and returned peace to the three realms. The earthly emperor god dynasties 3,000 years were the most peaceful era in the past 8,000 years. However, at the peak of the Golden Age, when the earthly emperor god dynasty was unified, the earthly emperor became the demon emperor. The demon emperor died in battle, the immortal court realm collapsed, and the divine land sank. This was the regret of countless people. In the heavenly palace, the governor held the crown in his hand and looked at Hong Yu expectantly. "Your Majesty." The governor's tone was passionate. "Whether the emperor is the earthly emperor or the demon emperor, he is my master. 3,000 years ago, if the immortal court was unified, the three realms would have become one. There would be no more chaos, no more wandering, no more killing. 3,000 years ago, they besieged the immortal court and the emperor for their own selfishness. We were no match for them, and we were unwilling to accept it." The governor was indignant and furious, unwilling to accept it. That era of prosperity was even more popular than the era of the ancient heavenly court. However, those heavenly kings, sages, and venerable emperors, they destroyed everything for their own selfishness. Countless immortal court experts died in battle. Countless immortal court martial artists' blood stained the rivers. The heavens fell, the earth cracked, and the continents sank. The emperor died in battle in the immortal court, and the golden age came to an end. Today, they were going to rebuild the golden age. Hong Yu looked at the people below and fell silent for a while. Then he stood up, pressed his hands together, and said softly, "Whether it's the earthly emperor god dynasty or the demon emperor god dynasty, they're all gone. Today, the three realms are no longer the three realms of the past, and I am no longer the demon emperor. Demon emperor!" This time, Hong Yu did not call himself Judao or deny that he was the demon emperor and not the earthly emperor. Yes, the demon emperor. He was either the earthly emperor's clone, Judao, or the demon emperor. He was the only person in the three realms in 8,000 years who dared to call himself emperor. After the 9 emperors were destroyed, no one dared to call themselves emperor anymore. The people below became even more excited. The demon emperor had returned. The emperor who had suppressed the world 3,000 years ago had returned. Hong Yu smiled, and his voice was still soft. "There's no need to recall the past, and there's still hope for the future. Now, I'm back. Everything will start anew. We'll take back everything that's owed to us." He would take back the glory that belonged to him, the glory of the godly dynasty, and take revenge for the blood feud. Millions of immortal court soldiers had been destroyed, hundreds and thousands of true god experts had died in battle, and tens of billions of immortal court citizens had perished. They had all died in that heavenly change along with that continent. He had also died in battle in the immortal court. The heavenly kings who had attacked back then had only managed to kill King Li. But how many heavenly kings had attacked that year? Too many. Someone had not attacked, but they had been suppressing him in secret, including King Subduing and King Kuin. Although they had not attacked or suppressed him, they had been loitering outside the immortal court, threatening him. King Zhen, King Sun, King Li, King Qian, many heavenly kings had been suppressing him. At that time, Heavens Beyond and Outer Sea Immortal Islands were the main forces. King Sun was the supporter behind Outer Sea Immortal Islands, and King Li was the supporter behind Heavens Beyond. It was also at that time that the powerful Heavens Beyond was destroyed by the godly dynasty and lost its former glory. Otherwise, there would not have been the rise of other domains. As Hong Yu spoke, he looked outside the heavenly palace and said with a chuckle, "Brotherly, are you willing to help me?" Everyone looked back. The next moment, a figure flew over from outside the heavenly palace. Li Zhu looked at Hong Yu with a smile. Below, the Right Divine General and the others were a little excited. Their king had returned. Their king, who led the heavenly plants court, had returned. Li Zhu had a foundation in the catacombs. More than a dozen true god experts followed his orders. Even a demon plant expert like Tianyu obeyed him. At this moment, these experts were half happy and half worried. They were happy that Li Zhu had returned. Everyone had a pillar of support. But they were worried that Hong Yu, the founder of the godly dynasty, would be able to accommodate Li Zhu. Li Zhu flew over and walked to the outside of the great hall. He landed slowly and continued walking forward. He said with a smile, "Demon Emperor, can the new heavenly court win?" "Yes." Hong Yu said firmly. Everything is possible. You and I have come this far, so you should know that everything is possible. The old order has collapsed, and a new order will inevitably emerge. Everything is possible for anyone who can restore the world and restore order. The human race has heaven's subduing king, King Wu, and human king. The new heavenly court has me, you, and a group of like-minded people. If we don't try, how can we know if we can win? Hong Yu walked down the high platform and casually smashed the crown in the governor's hand. He said with a smile, "Why do you and I need these external objects to prove anything? Brotherly, I know you. You have been in charge of the Heavenly Plants Court for 100 years, and the people are at peace. Even King Wu and the others are suppressed by you. Internally, powerhouses appear frequently. Externally, the enemies retreat. Brotherly, you should know that 30,000 years ago, the 9 emperors rose at the same time. The 3 realms were established, and the world was united. Now, if we fight for the throne, how would we know that there is only one person?" Hong Yu walked up to Li Zhu. At this moment, everyone was looking at them. They were very similar. The same calm, the same perpetual smile, the same sunshine, the same elegance. Hong Yu, who rose 6,000 years ago, and Li Zhu, who rose 2,000 years ago, both rose from the catacombs. Li Zhu looked at him and said with a smile, "You should know that I have a lot of troubles. After suppressing the Palm Seal envoy, with the Weapon Master's personality, he might cause trouble for me. You, on the other hand, have a chance of winning him over. Since we are like-minded, we won't care about these things. Some things might not be troublesome if we talk it out." Hong Yu said softly, "The Palm Seal envoy and I have interacted in the past. You and he are both at fault, but you are not the only one at fault. Palm Seal envoy, I know that you can hear everything I say. Now, the strongest of the broken 8 realms have appeared. The new order is about to be established. Rather than fighting for a moment of pride, why not fight for a lifetime of light?" At that moment, a silhouette emerged. Next to Li Zhu was an elegant old man. With a cold face, he said blandly, "Hong Yu, what right do you have to say that?" Behind him, Sky Sword and the others recognized him. The Palm Seal envoy. He really did not die. Sky Sword's expression stiffened. He was the current Palm Seal envoy, but this was an ancient Palm Seal envoy. Hong Yu laughed. "Even Fong Ping and the others dare to fight. Why can't we? Have we lived for tens of thousands of years in vain?" The Palm Seal envoy was unmoved. He continued, "With the appearance of the broken 8 realms, can you fight against the suppressing Heavenly King? Fight against King Kuan? Fight against the suppressing sea? Fight against—" Hong Yu said softly, "The broken 8 realms are the broken 8 realms. 3,000 years ago, I paid the price with my life. My origin went silent and I roamed the great path. 3,000 years later, I broke through the broken 8 realms. Why can't I fight against you?" As soon as he said this, some people were confused. Some did not understand, but the Palm Seal envoy's expression changed. "You've been roaming the great path for the past 3,000 years. "That's right." Hong Yu laughed. 3,000 years ago, they were afraid that I would break through the broken 8 realms, so they surrounded me to kill me. They did not know that life and death are on the line. Death is not necessarily a disaster. For 3,000 years, my origin went into hiding and broke through the broken 8 realms. Now that I've lived another life, I shall defeat all enemies in the world. You're not the only one who can break through the broken 8 realms. You and I both have hope, don't we?" Li Zhu suddenly spoke. He laughed. "Master, we've been separated for so many years, but we're still one. Didn't the broken 8 realms appear in the world? We've both seen it. We're just one step away." The Palm Seal envoy said coldly, "How can it be so easy to break through the broken 8 realms? In the past, the 9 emperors used their supreme power to roam the origin and search for the source. They borrowed the power of heaven and earth to forge the Sanjiao Gate. It may seem like a step, but it's a world of difference. One must break through the limits of the origin and comprehend one's own Tao. Only then can one walk on this supreme path. Li Zhu laughed. If we don't dare to, if we can't, what's the point of fighting? Master of the 3 messengers, no, of the 4 messengers, you're the only one who thought too much and couldn't break through the broken 8 realms, right? The Palm Seal envoy frowned. Li Zhu continued, the God-forging envoy has broken through the Sanjiao Gate. As for how many gates, I don't know. Hong Yu laughed. The weapon mastery envoy broke through the Qi and Blood Gate, proving the Tao to be the strongest. Hong Kuan broke through the Energy Gate, proving the Tao to be the strongest. Li Zhan broke through the Qi and Blood Gate, proving the Tao to be the strongest. The God-forging envoy should have broken through the Spiritual Knowledge Gate, proving the Tao to be the strongest. Jinhai broke through the Life Gate, proving the Tao to be the strongest. They can do it. You and I can do it too. The Palm Seal envoy looked at him and said, what about you? I broke through the Spiritual Knowledge Gate. Hong Yu laughed. The next moment, the Palm Seal envoy's expression changed. He looked at him and said, clone. He broke through the Spiritual Knowledge Gate. His spiritual energy was extremely powerful. At this moment, he seemed to have realized something. This was a clone, a powerful clone. Hong Yu did not reply. He laughed. Palm Seal, what do you think? Do I have a choice? The Palm Seal envoy looked at Li Zhu, then at Hong Yu. He sneered. I don't have a choice, do I? If I don't agree today, you and that traitor Li Zhu will suppress me completely and even refine me, right? Hong Yu said softly, the past, the present, the future. The past is not important. The present and the future are what you and I need to care about. The Palm Seal envoy said, perhaps you are right, but I have been suppressed for many years and my origin is damaged. At this, Li Zhu laughed and shook his head. A small cauldron appeared in his hand. He laughed. Master wants to use the 1,000 Worlds cauldron as a foundation to forge a golden body and origin. Just give it back to Master. It's just an external object. Li Zhu does not need it. The 1,000 Worlds cauldron. The Palm Seal envoy looked at him, speechless for a long time. Of the 3 messengers' weapons, the 1,000 Worlds cauldron should be the strongest. No, it might be the most useful. It could stabilize the origin, speed up the creation of the great Tao, and absorb the Qi of the origin. Any powerful cultivator would not care about such a weapon. The 1,000 Worlds cauldron was no weaker than a divine artifact. In fact, it was the closest to a divine artifact because it could suppress the origin. But now, Li Zhu did not care and wanted to get back to him. The Palm Seal envoy glanced at him, then at Hong Yu. After a long time, he laughed. Interesting. Perhaps the 2 of you should become brothers. Li Zhu smiled, and so did Hong Yu. Perhaps. Bloodlines are not the only thing. If we are like-minded, then we are brothers. The Palm Seal envoy was silent for a while, then suddenly disappeared. His voice remained. I will settle the score with this traitorous disciple in the future. The situation is coming. I need to restore my true form. Li Zhu laughed. Hong Yu laughed too. At this moment, the 1,000 Worlds cauldron in Li Zhu's hand trembled. Li Zhu laughed, then his face paled. The next moment, he cut off his connection with the 1,000 Worlds cauldron. The 1,000 Worlds cauldron broke through the void and disappeared without a trace. Hong Yu laughed again. He stretched out his arm and looked at Li Zhu. Li Zhu did not hesitate. He extended his hand, and the 2 walked up to the throne, hand in hand. When the others saw this, some were excited, some were emotional, and some sighed inwardly. Li Zhu and Hong Yu had joined hands. They did not need to prove their strength. They were strong. On this day, the news spread everywhere. Li Zhu and Hong Yu had joined hands and descended to the heavenly court, becoming the 2nd ruler of the heavenly court. Not only them, but Li Zhu's master, one of the three envoys, also resolved his grudge with Li Zhu and chose the new heavenly court. 3 kings, Li Zhu and the palm seal had broken 7. Hong Yu was suspected to have broken 8. There were also Tianji, Tianming, and the governor. They also had hopes of becoming heavenly kings. Perhaps they would succeed soon and restore the glory of the heavenly court. The other sages also began to focus on cultivation, recovering their former strength. Some of these sages might become heavenly kings. This time, the new heavenly court had completely gained a foothold. Even if the Sea Seal envoys and the others were unhappy, they could not do anything. Powerful. The few heavenly kings were powerhouses among heavenly kings. There were also many sages and nearly 100 true gods. These true gods included Li Zhu's subordinates, powerhouses from the catacombs, powerhouses brought by the 2 kings from the king battlefield, and some old subordinates. The combination of these forces had once again become the strongest force in the 3 realms. Even if the human race had heavenly kings, they might not have the upper hand. On the human side, there were many heavenly kings, but the difference between the saint level and the emperor level was too great. There were new movements on the side of the new heavenly court. The weapon master had disappeared without a trace. No one knew where he was hiding. No one knew if he would go to the new heavenly court and join forces with Hong Yu and the others. King Kuan and the others also moved at this moment. The headquarters of the divine sect had been destroyed, but the powerhouses were not all dead. In the end, King Kuan still brought out Protector Shui, the heavenly Cloud Island Lord, and more than 10 true god powerhouses from the fake heavenly grave. Saint Tianbai, the Earth Protector, was still alive, just as the powerhouses of the new heavenly court joined forces. On a huge island overseas, the divine sect was re-established. On this day, King Kuan welcomed King Qian and King General among the 8 kings. 3 of them chose to join forces this time. At the same time, he was also one of the strongest. King Kuan, who had broken 8, King Qian, who had broken 7, and King Zhen, who had broken 6. The divine sect was re-established and occupied an island. At this time, the 3 kings also issued a recruitment order. The powerhouses of the overseas immortal islands, the outer heavens, and the land of boundaries could all go to the divine sect. The human race, the heavenly court, and the divine sect. The Chu Wu lineage occupied the deep sea. As for the sea guardian, moon spirit, heaven's pole, sky chief, Luan, and weapon master, some of these powerhouses hid in the dark, and some dominated a region. The situation of the past was recreated. The sages chose their own factions. Yuan Gang, who had disappeared from the human sovereign lineage for many days, appeared overseas again. He went to the divine sect with another sage of the human sovereign lineage and chose to join the divine sect. Cosmic Dragon of the Dragon Island hesitated for many days. In the end, he brought the powerhouses of the Dragon Island to the Sea Suppression Prefecture. The Beast Sovereign lineage chose the Sea Guardian. Although the Sea Guardian fought with the Beast Sovereign in the past, the Sea Guardian was one of the pillars of the demon race. At this moment, everyone was in chaos, but Cosmic Dragon still did not choose the human race. The human race seemed strong, but there were internal and external problems. The internal problems came from the powerhouses' origins. They were too complicated. Heavenly King, Subduing King, Lin Zi, Dragon Transformation. These powerhouses were not without a faction. The Sage of the West Emperor lineage found Heaven's Pole. Heaven's Pole brought the Sage and the powerhouses of the 7 luminaries Mai Heaven, including the 7 luminaries Emperor, and disappeared from the 3 realms. Someone saw them in the deep sea. Some guessed that Heaven's Pole brought them to the West Emperor Dojo ruins. Heaven's Pole should have been cultivating in seclusion there. Moon Spirit sealed Wangu Mountain. Even Seiju Wei and the others did not appear in the 3 realms. Sky Chief brought the 4 sages. They seemed to be searching for the space battlefield. small worlds, and their former companions. The other 36 sages and the heavenly court's divine army clearly had no intention of joining other forces. Juan was also on the move. He was looking for his old friends, the 72 paths of bandits. He, who was alone, felt threatened from all sides. The powerhouses were all on the move. The powerhouses of the Extreme Path lineage, the East Emperor lineage, and the Divine Emperor lineage were also in contact. They watched each other, waiting for the return of the Emperor lineage and their comrades. The Three Realms was eerily quiet. The war no longer broke out. At this time, Fong Ping was also cultivating in seclusion. He was stabilizing his realm, expanding his source world, and preparing for the system upgrade. This time, he seized the sacred martial god's weapon. He seized the weapons of a few sages, including their storage rings. If it were not for the fact that he had obtained the Sage Order and the Heavenly King Seal, he dared not level up there. The system would have been upgraded long ago. At this moment, there was no war in the Three Realms. It was also a rare opportunity for Fong Ping. Taking advantage of this time, Fong Ping began to upgrade the system. And this time, Fong Ping had a vague feeling that it might be the last time. His combat strength had already reached the Heavenly King level. If he advanced further, it would be the Imperial Path. The system might not be able to affect the Imperial Path much. Chapter 1232. Fong Ping was in closed-door cultivation. Zhang Tao was dealing with Earth's affairs. In Suppressing Star City, it was a scene of white mourning. Many old ancestors had died in battle in the outer world, causing these carefree Suppressing Star City martial artists to feel helpless, despair, and sorrow for the first time. Cries of grief could be heard from time to time in the city, but they were quickly suppressed by the leaders of the various families. In the Hall of Myriad Origins, Heavenly King Jin, who had announced that he was in closed-door cultivation, was currently walking in the Hall of Myriad Origins with his hands behind his back, followed by the God Creation Envoy Avatar, Jiang Hao, War King, Thunder King, and the others. Hundreds of years ago, I brought back the Hall of Myriad Origins. At that time, the Hall of Myriad Origins was in the Emperor's tomb. Just as he said that, Heavenly King Zhen waved his hand and shattered a small button-like object in the corner of the hall. Outside, Jiang Chao rubbed his ears and muttered, "Another secret from me." What's wrong with listening? What's wrong with that? The Li family's old ancestor really didn't give him any face. Heavenly King Zhen waved his hand, and the door of the Hall of Myriad Origins closed. After closing the door, Heavenly King Zhen smiled and said, "Some things are in the past. It's fine as long as we know. There's no need for those juniors to know." When I brought it back to the Hall of Myriad Origins, I knew that Unquestionable Sword was inside, where King interrupted impatiently. "I'm not interested in these things. I just want to ask a few questions. First, did you know that Unquestionable Sword came to Suppressing Star City back then, or did you deliberately let it happen?" "Yes." Heavenly King Jin nodded and said, "Of course I know, because I reached an agreement with Unquestionable Sword. Back then, there were almost no powerhouses on Earth. Other than me, there was almost no one at the peak. Therefore, Unquestionable Sword and I reached an agreement. I was outside and he was inside. Sometimes I might leave Earth, and his physical body would be responsible for guarding Earth. If there were powerhouses attacking, he would help. If not for his existence, some things wouldn't have been so simple in the past 1,000 years." War King continued, "You agreed to let him be the human king." When he said this, he glanced at Jiang Hao, who was silent. Heavenly King Jin smiled and said, "No, I just said that I wouldn't stop him. It all depends on his own ability." Obviously, he didn't do it. Back then, according to our judgment, there would still be a few years before the passageway fully opened. At that time, a few years later, it would be. He didn't say how they were different, but everyone knew. A few years later, if the Unquestionable Sword did not die, Jiang Hao would be able to fuse with it. At that time, Jiang Hao might become an expert who had broken 8. Breaking 8. Human. If this was not a sovereign personage, then who could be a sovereign personage? However, it was obvious that the plan had failed. Fang Ping's existence interfered with many things. Unquestionable Sword's final decision to walk toward death had a lot to do with this. The War King said again, "You're all scheming against the human race. Did you already know something? Also, you're so powerful, but you didn't participate in the Battle of the Heavenly Court back then? What was going on with the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors? Of the 4 reincarnations, only 3 had shown up. What was going on with Emperor of Heaven Reverse? What was the final goal of the Immortal Source project? How many of the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors were still alive? Where were they now? What is their purpose? When will they appear? Are they hostile or friendly to humans?" The War King asked a bunch of questions in one go. There were some questions that he had been holding back for a long time. Today, while the Forging God Envoy and Sky Subduing King were both here, he wanted to ask for an explanation. Before the War King could finish, he asked again, "What strength do you have? Where is the God Crafting Envoy? Are you helping humans, or do you have other motives? What's going on with Li Jin?" At the end, he said gloomily, "Jiang Hao, this kid, what's going on now?" Sky Subduing King smiled. "Don't worry, I will naturally say what needs to be said. Who asked you to be my son?" The War King's face was pitch black. "Son your ass. Who is your son? Shameless old thing." The God-crafting envoy chuckled and teased, "You're an old widower. Where did your son come from?" As soon as these words came out, the War King was stunned. Sky Subduing King laughed. "Don't look at me like that. The Li family is indeed my Li family's bloodline. It's just the bloodline of King Zhen, which is also my younger brother's bloodline inheritance. As for me, people like us, our hearts are in the great Tao, and we usually won't be moved. Back then, there were only a few descendants of the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors, but there were also bloodline inheritances, which were usually bloodline inheritances of the same race." At this point, Sky Subduing King walked into the depths of the Hall of 10,000 Origins. As he walked, he said, "Li Zhen, maybe you heard what the others said and thought that he was the reincarnation of King Zhen, which is also my younger brother." Sky Subduing King sighed softly. "That day, during the Battle of the Heavenly Court, my silly little brother. He was too deeply involved. Before the great battle, he had just broken through the 7th level of strength, yet he insisted on participating. In the end, he was personally killed on the spot." "What?" The War King was stunned. "Sky Extermination Emperor?" Sky Subduing King said calmly, "It's very normal. Do you think that just because the Sky Extermination Emperor reincarnated in the human race, he is a good friend of this old man? Back then, the relationship between the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors was very complicated. Some of the beginners who participated in the battle were also taught by the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors. In the end, those who should be killed still had to be killed. My younger brother was too deeply involved. He was the only one among the 8 kings who fought to the end. In the end, he fought with his life on the line. When I arrived, his origin had already been extinguished and his golden body had shattered. I took back his body, but I couldn't save his life. In the end, I buried his physical body, afraid that someone would steal his golden body and strip away his golden body's power. Li Zhen, that kid, had obtained some of his golden body's power, as well as some origin inheritance and martial arts inheritance. If it was really King Zhen's reincarnation, I wouldn't have arranged for him to reincarnate like this. Otherwise, it would be so awkward to call my descendants father and ancestor. This old man also doesn't want to have a few ancestors above me. He and King Zhen were biological brothers. If King Zhen really reincarnated, Commander Li's parents would be his parents, although it was not the same concept." Sky Subduing King chuckled and said, "My younger brother died in battle 8,000 years ago. However, he shouldn't have any objections to some of his power being passed down to his descendants. Li Zhen is indeed a modern person and not a reincarnation of an ancient person, so there's no need to think about that. The War King said regretfully, no? What a pity. I also said that if he was King Zhen, he would be your younger brother. This kid often calls me old ancestor. Shouldn't you also? Bang! With a muffled sound, the War King trembled violently. He trembled and trembled for a long time without stopping. Sky Subduing King casually retracted his palm, not giving him a chance to finish speaking. The God Creation envoy glanced at the War King. This little fatty's ability to court death was not weak. But then again, Li Zhen's personality had changed a little over the years. He was no longer as arrogant as he was back then. Otherwise, it would not be such a good thing. Sky Subduing King ignored them and continued. Li Zhen is Li Zhen. This matter is over. There's no need to mention it again. Only 3 of the 4 emperors have reincarnated. That's because Do didn't die. Not dead? Then the other 3 extreme Tao Heavenly Emperors are dead? The War King hurriedly asked. Sort of. Sky Subduing King sighed. At their level, it's actually very difficult to die. The incomparably powerful them could even be said to be immortal and indestructible. But if their injuries were too severe, they would also die. Nirvana was not the same as death. However, after the nirvana, it was unknown when he would recover again. The other 3 Sky Emperors were all dead, which was why they had reincarnated. As for Do, he did not die, so naturally he would not have reincarnated. The War King frowned, and the God Creation envoy asked curiously, weren't Do's injuries serious back then? Did you see that guy later on? With that, the God Creation envoy continued, that old thing did not die. Actually, I am not surprised. Who is he? It's not surprising that he didn't die. The War King looked at him doubtfully. The God Creation envoy laughed and said, speaking of fighting, that guy's qualifications are not ordinary old. More than 30,000 years ago, the beginning of the martial arts. You have to know that the beginning of the martial arts is also different. Not everyone would be a martial artist the moment they came, and they would be strong. There was always a first come, first served. In the early stages of the martial arts, it was hard to say who was the first one to create the martial arts. It was hard to say who the second one was. In short, Do should be ranked in the top 10. The War King was surprised. Top 10? You mean Heaven Emperor Reverse is the oldest batch of beginner martial artists? That's right. The God Creation envoy laughed. That guy's qualifications are frighteningly old. Do you know why he is the extreme Tao Heavenly Emperor and not the Emperor? Because he did not walk the path of origin at all, do you understand? Do, that guy, actually did not walk the path of origin. In the later stages, he was exploring a new path himself, wanting to walk the path of the beginner martial emperor. At this point, he paused and said, the one who created the origin, in fact, could also be considered to have walked the path of the beginner martial emperor. There are 2 situations in becoming an emperor. One is the kind that creates the origin, from the mastery of one Tao to the mastery of the second Tao. In the end, they fuse and become an emperor. The second is the same as the 9 emperors. They walk one Tao, the origin Tao, and in the end they become emperors. And Do, if he wants to be the first, he also wants to walk the origin. However, the origin is created by someone else, and it is extremely difficult for him to walk it. The founders of the beginner martial arts all have their own Tao. When they reach a certain level of strength, it is almost impossible to walk the origin. Hearing that, the War King frowned and said, according to what you said, the beginner martial path won't work. Then the other extreme path, Heavenly Emperors. The God Creation envoy laughed. Stupid beginner martial is also divided into the first and second generations, understand? The first generation beginner martial artist, self-created path, walked to the end of the path. Of course, there was no way to change anything. For the second generation beginner martial artist, one situation was to switch to the origin at rank 8 realm. The other was to cultivate the origin at the same time. Of course, the rejection was very big, the stronger the rejection, but there were always some heaven-defying fellows who succeeded in the end. But then again, at that time, the origin had already gained the upper hand. The so-called simultaneous cultivation was only the cultivation of the origin. For example, Fong Ping, his golden body, is not weak. Didn't he also cultivate the origin? The War King understood. So, in the end, the outcome of the same cultivation is actually that the origin has the upper hand and becomes an origin martial artist. That's right. The God creation envoy nodded and said, those who cultivate the origin are actually origin martial artists. No matter how strong your golden body is, how strong your mentality is, in the end, the origin is still the main, because the strength of the origin is faster, more, and stronger than other aspects. The subduing heavenly king interrupted. Let's not talk about this. It's useless to say it. Let's continue talking about the heavenly emperor. The heavenly emperor is the ancient beginner martial artist leader, very old. Speaking of which, he is a figure of the same era as my master and the one who created the origin. The sky arm that I sent flying earlier was also a beginner martial artist, but there's a gap in the beginner martial artist. He is considered a beginner martial artist in the late stage. Many beginner martial artists in the early stage can't go on. Some are only rank 3, rank 5, rank 6. Most of them died of old age, cultivated in the wrong direction, and self-destructed. There are also some who died in the battle. Let's put it this way. Some of these people just cultivate randomly, forcefully absorbing a little energy. Then they treat themselves as a beginner martial artist. So the strength gap at that time is very big. In the end, only a few people can continue to walk. Those beginner martial artists who came later were more or less affected, knowing the cultivation methods of these beginner martial artists, avoiding some of the drawbacks, which is why there is the prosperity of the beginner martial artists in the future. The heavenly emperor is that old. Warlord had just finished his words when he asked, "Since when do you have a master?" "Your grandmaster." Before King Zhen could finish, Warlord rolled his eyes. "Your grandmaster." "That is not my grandmaster." King Zhen did not look at him. He smiled. "Your father." "I am not born to know everything." "How can I not have a master?" "Your grandmaster was a pioneer of that era. Those people were not stingy with their martial arts. I have been learning from your grandmaster for over 10,000 years. 10,000 years, and you still haven't reached the sovereign realm." King Zhen stared at Warlord for a long time, unfriendly. Warlord curled his lips. "I am being serious. When the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors were proven, you should have been learning. Why didn't you reach the sovereign realm? According to what you said, second-generation beginners can learn the origin. Didn't you learn it? If so, you are not a good-for-nothing. Why didn't you become the sovereign of origin?" King Zhen said with disdain, "I didn't want to. There were many people who were unwilling back then. Do you think everyone wants to become the sovereign of origin?" The God creation envoy said faintly, back then, before the 9 emperors reached the Tao, it had not been proven that the origin was stronger. Some people had bad eyesight and felt that the Tao of origin was not good enough. Of course, they disdained to learn the Tao of origin. It was too late. The general trend has passed. And you still want to prove the Tao of origin? Dream on. King Zhen's expression was unfriendly. The God creation envoy said lazily, "I am talking about you people. You, Feng Zhenhai. Didn't you guys all walk the origin later? In the beginning, who would have thought that the origin could prove the Tao and become a sovereign? They all thought that the guy who created the origin had walked this path to the extreme and that no one else could walk it. Who would have thought that it was not?" The God creation envoy also shook his head and said, "This old man did not expect this to happen back then, so I am a little regretful. If I had walked the origin earlier, maybe I would have become an emperor too." King Zhen sneered. Jiang Hao could not help but say, "You were only at the emperor realm back then." Back then, the God creation envoy was very weak. Where did he get the confidence to become an emperor? The God creation envoy said snappily, "An idiot is an idiot." The so-called emperor stage back then was because this old man had never walked the path of origin. Do you understand beginner martial arts? Back then, This old man also disdained to walk the path of origin. After the 9 emperors confirmed the Tao, no one else confirmed the Tao, and this old man was too lazy to walk anymore. Therefore, back then, it was an emperor stage physical body, not that its strength was only at the emperor stage. After that, the heaven realm was gone. This old man was idle, so I walked around the origin to play. Isn't this, after a few thousand years, I can easily break through? These words were actually a slap in the face to some people. Just play around, just walk around, and then he broke through 8. It was only 8,000 years. Yes, that was all. Among the powerhouses who had broken through the 8, who had only walked the origin for 8,000 years. No, he was the only one. Of course, the God Creation Envoy had the capital to be proud. King Jintian said, "It took a few thousand years to reach this stage. Is that amazing? Zhang Tao is about to break through 7, Fangping. Maybe he will break through 8 tomorrow. What are you so proud of?" The God Creation Envoy said disapprovingly, "This old man will only compete with you guys. You're not as strong as me. You have to be stronger than me before you say that. Sooner or later." The God Creation Envoy did not think much of it and quickly said, "It's useless to tell me about these ancient matters. Let Zhang Tao and Fang Ping make a trip here as soon as possible and undo the seal on me. Otherwise, this old man will fly into a rage and leave by himself. Why don't you try?" King Jintian snorted and said, "Do you really think you're a big shot? If it wasn't for you back then, there wouldn't have been so many messy things later on. You've committed too many sins. Reflect on yourself. It's only been 8,000 years. I'm being polite to you if I didn't behead you." The God Creation Envoy could not help but scold. "Does it have anything to do with me? I'm just a blacksmith." At that time, the 9 emperors came to my door and said that they were forging a divine weapon. I could choose any good thing. Didn't I want to forge a divine weapon that would be passed down through the ages? That thing was too tempting. How would I know what they were going to do? I am a God Creation Envoy, used by the Heavenly Court. According to the current words, I am a scientific research expert used by the military department, specializing in the development of high-tech, cutting-edge weapons. The 9 bosses of the country are all here. If you want to develop a weapon and use the funds as you please, can you not do it? Do you really think that I was willing to be suppressed by you for 8,000 years? It's just that I can't beat you. Otherwise, I would have killed you a long time ago." The God Creation Envoy said angrily, "If it wasn't for you, I might have already become a martial emperor. Back then, I had no choice but to walk the path of origin. You old thing, you have suppressed me for 8,000 years. Sooner or later, I will settle the score with you." Hearing this, the War King interrupted. "The grudge between the 2 of you, go and settle it yourself. Continuing the topic from before, if the Heaven Reverse Emperor is not dead, then what about now?" Now, King Jintian rubbed his chin, pointed to the sky, and said, "I'm not sure. It might be at the immortal origin. If it's not at the immortal origin, then I don't know." The God Creation Envoy continued, "It's hard to say. If the 9 emperors are not dead, they might be over there, waiting for an opportunity. If he doesn't die, then I'm not sure. I suspect that this old fellow is still secretly plotting many things. Tell me, could he have found a way to walk the origin and actually walk the origin, and now he has become a double yolk egg? Do is a beginner martial artist, unable to walk the source. However, there were some things that might not be true." The God Creation Envoy continued, "Actually, I've always suspected that he might have walked out. Otherwise, this guy would be terrifying. Back then, he was a battle emperor, and before he even became a martial emperor, he was already a battle emperor, and before he even walked the origin, that would be terrifying." King Jintian shook his head and said, "Who knows? Maybe it's because his energy has reached the extreme, his spiritual force has reached the extreme, and his physical body has reached the extreme. It's not strange for him to come down from the extreme Tao a few times. This guy still wants to become a 4 yolk egg? The God creation envoy was speechless. His ambition is not small. If he proves his Tao with his origin, then wouldn't he be terrifyingly strong? As the two old fellows chatted, the War King could not hold it in any longer. He cursed in a low voice. Don't talk about this. Continue. Are the 9 emperors and 4 emperors hostile to humans? No hostile relationship. King Jintian said casually, humans are ants. How can there be a hostile relationship? However, humans might be their test subjects. They might be testing some great Tao or some other martial arts problems. Let humans start from scratch and reopen the beginner state of the past. Let's see if humans can walk out of some special paths. Perhaps that's what they want to see. For example, the legendary Emperor Tao, the Emperor Tao. For example, some special extreme Tao among the extreme Tao. Is there another extreme Tao? For example, similar to this indescribable special Tao that Fang Ping has now. King Zhentian laughed. It's very complicated. To be honest, even I am surprised by these situations that have happened to humans over the years. I want to investigate thoroughly. How did it appear? The 9 emperors and 4 emperors might all have such a purpose. That's why there is the current deformed martial Tao. Deformed. Of course it's deformed. King Zhentian laughed. Do you really think that the great Tao is so easy to walk? True God today, Emperor tomorrow? Let me tell you, do you believe it? At the end of the origin, there might be a few fellows suppressing the great Tao. They purposely made it easy for people to walk. King Zhentian's eyes flickered. The Sanjiao Gate should have a real body. Even if we break the Sanjiao Gate now, it's just a projection, not a real one. Behind the 3 Tao gates, there might be 3 old ghosts suppressing it. They're not suppressing us, but suppressing the great Tao, not giving the great Tao a chance to counterattack. Back then, it was not so easy to walk the origin Tao. Who knows how many people self-destructed? But now, who detonated the origin Tao unless they did it themselves? As soon as he said that, the God creation envoy said in a deep voice, it's really possible. Don't say there's a high chance that the Sanjiao Gate has a physical body. I didn't create this, so I'm not too sure. However, when the 9 emperors sealed their paths, they might have created this thing themselves. If you say so, then it makes sense. There are a few fellows who might really be suppressing the backlash of the great Tao at the end of the origin Tao. It's indeed easier to walk the origin Tao now than it was back then. The War King was confused. Why do you want to suppress it? Is it good for them? King Zhentian said casually, reduce the experimental time and catalyze it. What's so surprising about that? The War King frowned and said, then you guys are also their lab rats? Who knows? King Zhentian chuckled and said, don't mind it too much. A lab rat is a lab rat. What's the big deal? Beginners are all lab rats. Everyone is using themselves as experimental subjects. The martial Tao is like this. It's actually not a big deal. When the 9 emperors walked the origin Tao, they were also using themselves as lab rats. Don't mind it too much. Then, when will they return? King Zhentian pondered for a moment and said, depends on the situation. See, if anyone has truly reached the end of the origin Tao, or if there's a huge change in the 3 realms, or if something that threatens them happens, then what does Zhang Tao mean when he said that there are traitors among the emperors? That's what I meant. King Zhentian smiled and said, the 9 emperors did not want to destroy the world in the beginning. Do you understand? The original intention of creating the immortal origin Tao was not to destroy the human world or the land realm. Later, there was a problem with the immortal origin Tao, which led to the current situation. Among the 9 emperors, there were some who betrayed their original intentions. They wanted to walk a different path, do different things, and become a different emperor. That's why there are traitors. This should be related to the flaw in the Emperor Tao that Zhang Tao mentioned. I'm not too sure about this. After all, I haven't become an emperor yet. Who is the traitor? The War King asked again. King Jintian said impatiently, "Then who should I ask? I'm not the 9 emperors' father. Who knows what they're thinking?" The War King was stunned. "You sure have guts." At the side, the God Creation Envoy put away a piece of crystal and kept it in his storage ring without batting an eyelid. King Jintian said indifferently, "Play it to the 9 emperors? Do you think I'm afraid of them? Besides, I'm not their father in the first place. Do I have to say that I'm their father?" The God Creation Envoy put away another piece of crystal and said with a smile, "I'll record this down. It might be beneficial." King Jintian sneered and felt even more disdain in his heart. Was there any use in recording the voice? What realm was he in? Why did he care about the sound? Who is sure that I said it? Chapter 1233. Inside the Hall of Myriad Origins. Sky King Zhenwang ignored the God Creation Envoy and continued, "The 9 emperors and 4 emperors, the great war that broke out back then, should have something to do with the beginner martial artists. Of course, I'm not talking about those old bastards trapped in the heavenly tomb. Those old things can only be considered lab rats." The War King played along and asked, "Could it be related to you?" "Get lost." Sky King Zhanwang snorted, and the God Creation Envoy said, "He doesn't have the qualifications. Don't beat around the bush. I can roughly guess who it is related to. First, fight. Second, the old ghost who created the origin. Third, those who have just entered the martial arts realm and have a chance of entering the Emperor path." Heavenly King Jin nodded and said, "That's right." The battle of the Great Tao back then was actually still ongoing, and the victor had yet to be determined. The battle between the original source Tao and the beginner martial Tao isn't over yet. After all, as I said, strictly speaking, the one who created the original source is the beginner martial emperor. The War King was confused. "What do you mean?" "Exactly what I said." Heavenly King, subduing, said indifferently, "The 9 sovereigns are the origin sovereigns, not that one. Do you understand?" "I don't understand. Why are you so King stupid?" The subduing Heavenly King cursed, "The 9 emperors represent the source. That person created the source. But that doesn't mean it's the source. Don't you understand? That person only created the origin, used it to prove his Tao, to prove his initial martial Tao. As for the 9 emperors, they're the true representatives of the elemental Tao." Heavenly King, subduing Heavenly King, didn't understand. After a while, he gritted his teeth and said, "Let's put it this way. The 9 emperors are the sons of the Tao of Origin, and the Tao of Origin is their mother. The person who had created the Path of Origin was actually the 9 emperors' father. However, after he had finished using the Path of Origin, he had immediately thrown it away. Therefore, the person who created it cannot represent the Origin Tao. The bloodline of the Origin Tao belongs to the 9 emperors." The War Monarch nodded. He finally understood. "Are you saying that there's a high chance that the 9 emperors will go to war with that person in the end?" "The possibility is not small." Heavenly King Jin said solemnly, "I suspect so. As for the reason, it might be related to quintessence and the flaws in the Imperial Tao, and all of this might be greatly related to that person from all those years ago." "What's his name?" The War King was confused. "Just tell me the name." "No name." Heavenly King, subduing, said indifferently, "Maybe there was, but the 9 emperors forbade it from being mentioned. After tens of thousands of years, I've almost forgotten about it." Jiang Hao finally opened his mouth and said in a deep voice, "It should have a name, right? Celestial Emperor? Heavenly Hound?" The War King shouted. Heavenly King Jin frowned and said, "It's meaningless to know about these things. Back then, when the 9 emperors reached the Tao, they didn't mention these things anymore. They didn't mention this person anymore, so they were long forgotten in the long river of history. As for whether it's the Celestial Emperor or the Heavenly Tao, it has little to do with us." "Why are you so emotional?" The War King's face was filled with curiosity, as if he had caught on to something, and anxiously said, "God Creation Envoy, why is he so excited? Could it be that he's that guy's reincarnation?" That's why he's upset when I say that Heavenly Hound is the celestial emperor. The God-forging envoy was shocked by his imagination, and after a long while he laughed. It shouldn't be. This guy is so excited. It's probably related to his master. I have heard of it a few times. His master said in front of some of the older generation experts in the three realms that his disciple is extraordinary. Maybe he can surpass that person. In the end, his face was slapped swollen. He was very useless and couldn't prove his Tao and become an emperor. In the end, the other party casually created a path and walked out of the 9 emperors. It's normal for him to be agitated after being slapped in the face like this. The War King was shocked once again. This old man is so experienced. Before the 9 emperors attained their Tao, they were said to be able to surpass that fellow who created the origin. The God-forging envoy laughed and said, "Of course I'm old. Even if I'm not old, I'm not that strong." He is a second-generation beginner martial artist. But strictly speaking, some first-generation beginner martial artists aren't as old as him. Some first-generation beginner martial artists haven't even created their own martial path. But this old guy has already learned martial arts from his master. I still haven't become a Ren Huang. The War King's words were filled with emotion, but they were also extremely heart-wrenching. King Zhan Wang's face darkened, and he said snappily, "What do you know?" At that time, my goal was to prove my Tao, who knows? In any case, I failed to prove my Tao. I started cultivating again 20,000 years ago and started over again. Do you understand? What do you mean? The War King was shocked. You've reincarnated? No. King Zhanwang's face was calm as he said calmly, 20,000 years ago, I felt that the path of the first martial proof might be a little different. It might not be a good thing to walk to the end of the path. So, 20,000 years ago, in order to experience the new path again, I crippled my jade bones and broke the brain nucleus that I had tempered to the extreme. I left behind a memory chip and started over. Starting from immortal, King Zhanwang said softly. Yes, in the past tens of thousands of years. Who has this old man's courage? No. That's why this old man is the strongest and most talented in the 3 realms. At that time, my jade bone broke through to 7, and my spiritual force was a step away from a qualitative change. After the qualitative change, I would break through to 8, but I gave up. Heavenly King Jin said proudly, I gave up everything and started from scratch. I didn't even hesitate to die, to reopen the origin Great Tao. My talent allowed me to dominate the 3 realms, and 3,000 years later, I once again confirmed the Tao as a heavenly king. 10,000 years later, I've proven my Tao to break through the 7th level, and I'm even on the path to breaking through the 8th level. The War King looked at him in disbelief. You must be bragging, right? It was like he was joking. The God Creation envoy smiled but did not speak this time. At the side, the Thunder Sovereign, who had been ignored by everyone, suddenly said in a muffled voice, That should be the case. When I knew him, it had been about 20,000 years. At that time, he had just reached the true God realm. That's why I never thought that he was Li Zhen. The Li Zhen of the past was quite famous in the 3 realms. Thunder King. The War King suddenly looked at him and said with a frown, You met him 20,000 years ago? You're not even an overlord. True gods live for 10,000 years, but you've lived for 20,000 years. Not only that, you were probably an expert at that time. Who are you? The Thunder King was an old acquaintance of the subduing Heavenly King, but he had always been neglected. The War King didn't think too much about it before. He thought that they had gotten to know each other afterward. But today, the Thunder King said that the subduing Heavenly King he had met 20,000 years ago was not an emperor level. So how could he have lived for 20,000 years? No matter how old the surviving true gods were, they were only around 10,000 years old. The remaining ones either became emperors or died. Ming Ting, this late-stage heaven realm true god, almost died of old age. Heavenly King Jin Wang couldn't help but scold. Listen to the main point. Most importantly, I gave up everything 20,000 years ago and cultivated anew. You were a heavenly king in 2 lifetimes. You almost broke through 8 in your initial martial arts, and you directly broke through 8 in your origin. Do you understand? That was the main point, not the Thunder King. Why are you so obedient? The God creation envoy snorted and laughed. It felt great. I'll let you pretend. The War King snapped. No matter how awesome you are, you still haven't become a Renhuang. What's the use? You didn't become a Renhuang. Even if you cultivated 100 times, you would still be trash. What's the point of saying all this? Don't point at me. If I were you, I wouldn't give up. Maybe I'll become an emperor. You're sick in the head. You gave up your beginner, martial cultivation source, and now you're showing off. Are you sick? Heavenly King Zhen's expression changed. These words might not be without reason. Back then, if he kept walking on the initial martial path, could he become an emperor? He didn't know. You don't have the confidence to become an emperor, so you walked on the origin. Now, you're saying that you're very awesome. The War King sneered. What do you want to show off? What's there to show off? Crazy. You were cultivating well, but you suddenly gave up. You want me to admire you and worship you? In the end, I still haven't become an emperor. Boom! The War King trembled and continued to tremble. He trembled until his internal organs were about to spit out. Heavenly King Zhentian retracted his fist and felt much more comfortable. His expression was ice cold as he said, "What do you know? Your father." I is because I don't like becoming an emperor, and I don't like the simple Emperor Dao. I want to become an emperor, the strongest Emperor Dao. This time, the War King stopped trembling and stopped talking. He had learned his lesson. After being beaten half to death twice, it was better not to provoke this madman who had yet to become an emperor. Heavenly King Zhentian no longer brought up the past. His incomparably awesome past was like playing the lute to a cow. Who was he? He had given up on the beginner martial arts, walked from the mortal world again, and started walking the path of origin again. Why did he completely give up and not forcefully walk the path of origin like the others? Because he wanted to comprehend this new path bit by bit. In the end, from the mouth of the War King, it was as if he was a failure. All right, it was indeed a bit of a failure. Heavenly King Zhentian cursed in his heart. Fortunately, he did not tell Fang Ping and the others. Otherwise, these bastards might be even more black-hearted than the War King. They might even mock him crazily. However, back then, if I really kept on walking, would I be able to become an emperor? Heavenly King Zhentian felt helpless. He had been affected by this grandson of the War King to actually think about this. Just as he was thinking about this, the God creation envoy suddenly said, "Li Xuanxia, are you this little fatty's father?" The two of them looked at him. The God creation envoy tugged at his beard and suddenly said, "Little fatty, you can call me ancestor in the future." The War King almost killed him. What was going on? Now he was taking advantage of me? It was one thing for old Li to call him Godfather, but this old thing actually wanted to take advantage of him? The God creation envoy said in a deep voice, "Don't be anxious. I seem to remember who you are. I didn't pay much attention to you before, but after looking at you for so long, let me think. Your ancestor seems to be the chef from the Cat Palace? Cooking or brushing, I don't really remember. Back then, he followed Tian Chen to the Fire God continent and was killed by someone. You really look a little similar to your ancestor. Don't say that this old man took advantage of you. Back then, when your ancestor saw me, he also called me Venerable Emperor. He was extremely polite and even cooked for me for a period of time. That should be the case. In that case, you can be considered to have taken advantage of me by calling me ancestor. After all, your ancestor was just like that in front of me back then. Your ancestor is the one who brushes hair and cooks. The God creation envoy also threw out a punch, causing him to start trembling. This scene caused the corners of Jiang, Hao, and the others' mouths to tremble. There was no one to vent, and he was looking for the War King to vent. The God Creation envoy said angrily, "This old man won't spout nonsense. Li Xuanxie, tell me, is his ancestor that fatty?" After saying that, he stretched out his hand and pulled the War King's face long. He punched the War King a few more times, causing his body to swell and swell. He laughed and said, "Look, isn't it very similar?" King Zhanwang's face stiffened. This kind of attack. It really looked like it. The War King seemed to have been beaten to a pulp. It was swollen and his gaze could kill. King Zhanwang snorted. "So what if it looks like? Just because it looks like it doesn't mean it's that guy's descendant. It should be right. The ash cat won't casually brush its fur. This guy brushed the ash cat thousands of years ago, so it's most likely that he's that guy's descendant." This time, King Zhanwang had nothing to say. He did not recognize his son anymore and casually said, "He's not my son. What does it have to do with me?" At this time, the War King was able to speak. He gritted his teeth and cursed. "Are you guys crazy? Did I provoke you?" After cursing for a while, he said, "What fatty?" "Your ancestor." The God Creation envoy laughed. "Even if I told you, you wouldn't know. He would have been beaten to death long ago. Back then, Tian Chen brought the cat army to encircle the fire god continent. Back then, the Chu Wu lineage was quite tyrannical, causing rivers of blood to flow. Your ancestor was beaten to death in the fire god continent." The War King bared his teeth and looked at King Zhanwang. "Really?" King Zhanwang said faintly, "It's a little similar just now. Probably this old man didn't pay much attention to it before. Don't mind it too much. Your ancestor has been dead for tens of thousands of years and is separated from you by who knows how many generations of bloodline. Who cares about him?" The War King gritted his teeth. "I really have an ancestor." Everyone was speechless. "You don't have an ancestor. Where did you come from? So, you're saying that my family has a close relationship with the Ash Cat?" The War King was a little depressed. Why was the entire family related to that cat? No wonder when he saw this cat back then, this cat wanted to brush its own fur. It turned out to be an ancestral business. King Zhanwang nodded. "Yes, your family and the Ash Cat did have a close relationship, and if Jiang Hao was included, it was even more so. Previously, he really didn't care too much about this. Just now, the God Creation envoy had beaten him swollen. Thinking about it again, he could roughly guess that it should be the descendant of that big fatty, a member of the Cat Palace back then. Then can my ancestor revive?" At this time, the War King was no longer conflicted and asked, "If I can recover, why can't my ancestor?" "It's hard to say." King Zhanwang shook his head. "There's not much hope. It was different at that time. It wasn't that he deliberately held back. At that time, he really wanted to kill. Tianchen almost died. Let alone your ancestor, he should be dead." "That means he won't revive?" "It should be." "That's good. So as not to have another ancestor come out and make Lousy be that cat's chef," the War King said heartlessly. Who knew how many generations they were separated by? Who cared? If the old ancestor really crawled out, then he had no choice but to admit it. He had already been dead for tens of thousands of years, so what did he care about? At this point, the War King asked again, "What is the identity of the Thunder King?" As the identities of the experts were revealed, the Thunder King Xiao Weigua no longer hid anything and said in a low voice, "I'm not some big shot." "I am." King Zhanwang directly interrupted. "Him? He is a disciple of the human emperor. His status is not low, and his identity is a bit complicated. He was a king of the human world more than 10,000 years ago, and there are some legends left behind in the myths, but they were almost obliterated. In the past, he was considered strong, but in the end, when the immortal source was successfully forged and the orthodoxy of the human world was destroyed, this guy's strength fell. Oh, he is also the great pope." The War King was stunned. Impossible. He can't be the great pope. If he is the great pope, then... King Zhanwang waved his hand. "Let me finish." "He is not the great pope." "Then just now you said that you were playing with me." King Zhanwang said angrily, "Let me finish. He is the great pope." "Forget it. It is too King complicated. The great Pope is long dead. Do you really think I am an idiot? After the great Pope died, I was too lazy to let King Kuin make a move. So I let him join King Kuin, and later on the great Pope was him. I don't know if he is, but I don't know if he is. So in the beginning he was not the great Pope, but later on he was. Then those things that the evil sect did, the Thunder King said in a muffled voice. I have been in the catacombs all this time, less than a year out of 100 years. How would I know what the evil sect did? Don't push everything to me. Every little thing is my responsibility. Fang Ping said before that he will settle the score in the future. This matter is up to him. King Zhan Wang was puzzled. Why does he have to be the great Pope? Is there a need to play dirty? You don't understand. King Zhan Wang said casually. First, to reduce trouble, lest King Kuin keep sending people in. It is too troublesome. Second, King Kuin has broken 8. How did he do it? I am actually more curious. This trash is not considered too much of a genius. How did he break the Sanjiao Gate? This I have been thinking about. You knew that he had broken 8 before? Sky suppressing Heavenly King yawned and said, I know a little. He is really arrogant. When he broke 8, he even came to provoke me. I ignored him and told unquestionable Jen to exchange a move with him. He was a little afraid and ran. How did he break 8? I really find it a little strange. As he said that, King Zhanwang touched his chin and said, Not everyone can break 8. The weapon master is the final battle of life and death. Sea Suppressing was fighting with the Beast Emperor back then, this blacksmith, because he has forged too many divine weapons. He has some skills. He pulled out his own Sanjiao Gate. Anyway, he is fake 8. Don't take it seriously. God Creation Envoy curled his lips. Too lazy to care. Your whole family is fake 8. If it's Hong Yu, that is because he has been the emperor of the 3 realms for 3,000 years. Heavenly Dog, that is because he can eat. God knows what he ate back then. It seems like his Sanjiao Gate was broken. Tianqin, that old thing was too close to the origin back then. He did not experience the time when the Sanjiao Gate was sealed. King Zhanwang hesitated. Hongkuin, that is really something. I don't even know how he broke 8. The secret is not small. So I asked old Xiao to go in. But in the end he did not succeed. Hongkuin did not say anything. I suspect that it has something to do with the Emperor of Earth. Maybe the Emperor of Earth gave him something in the end. Or did something. That is why he broke 8. The War King bared his teeth and glanced at the few people present. They all have King identities. Only I don't. No, I do too. The Cat Palace brushes hair generals. The old ancestor might even be a part-time chef. He was also the adopted son of King Jinwang. Yes, his identity could be considered complicated. There was also a true lord of divine divination, unquestionable Jian's martial uncle. However, very quickly, the War King said hesitantly, You group of sinister old fellows suddenly pulled me here today, saying so much. What are you trying to do? You might as well tell Fang Ping and the others. Why are you telling me? King Zhanwang laughed. Isn't this to let you understand more? Know some ancient secrets. Know some ancient secrets, in case you know nothing about these. What do you mean? King Zhanwang laughed again. Nothing. I just want you to know more. Maybe it will be good. At the side, Zhang Hao said in a deep voice, It's like this. When unquestionable Jian died, he told me something. Back then, he went to the Sky Tomb, you know. He was in the Sky Tomb. His strength increased greatly. Therefore, I want to make a trip to the Sky Tomb to improve my strength. The Sky Tomb that unquestionable Jian went to is a little different from the current Sky Tomb. Actually, it is not with the Heavenly Hound and the others, but another place. Originally, I could go alone. But King Zhanwang said that a few more people, more opportunities, also a little safer. The strength of humans now is average. You are also Emperor rank. You are also old. If you want to improve further, it will be more difficult. Before he finished, King Zhanwang said bluntly, Let's put it this way. The weak won't do. The paragon will die too easily. Emperor rank is about the same. Powerhouses can go, but it is not worth it to die. Li Zhan is still young. It is not worth it to die. Moreover, this old man still has some benefits to give him. There is no part for you. Shin Haotian, this guy's talent, is not good. It will be a waste to go. I also won't let him go to die. Others, like Li Changsheng, their talent is much stronger than yours. It is not worth it to go. No matter how you think about it, you and old Xiao are already too old. You still have the talent. You also have the strength. Go once, maybe you can gamble for a future. I am telling you all this to let you be prepared. What do you mean? Warlord said warily, saying all this has nothing to do with the Sky Tomb, right? King Zhanwang laughed and said, a little, of course. It may not be useful. Anyway, you will know when you go. That place is a little complicated. Unquestionable Jian did not know how he found that place back then. We are all a little puzzled. He should have encountered some trouble there, and also encountered many opportunities. You, Zhang Hao, old Xiao, the three of you go together. At least you can take care of each other. Maybe you will become a saint or a heavenly king there. King Zhanwang tempted. Maybe directly break through 7 or 8, surpassing Fangping and the others. That is simply a treasure land. We want to go, but can't go. You let that kid Li Zhen accompany me. Get lost. King Zhanwang scolded. Nonsense! How can the descendants of my Li family go to die so easily? Warlord's face darkened. What did he mean I can go? If I ask you to go, then go. Stop talking nonsense. King Zhanwang said impatiently, your luck is not bad. You may not die. You have the protection of 2 generations of human kings. No, old Xiao is also a generation. 3 generations of human kings, and the protection of the Ash Cat. I, King Zhenwang, the soul of the Devil Emperor. You are so lucky. You even drank Spirit Emperor's bathwater. I think you will not die. Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up. All these years, unquestionable Jian has not been idle in the Hall of Myriad Origins, opening up a passage in the dark that leads there. It is in the middle of the 3 halls. I can only send 3 people over. The 3 of you go. Just right. Oh, right. When I come back, this passage will not be there. After sending you away, this passage will collapse. Think of a way to come back, also. Don't stay too long. Too long, the battle might be over. Saying this, King Zhanwang said again, don't worry, after you die, I will think of a way to send that little fatty of yours to the Ash Cat to brush his fur. Maybe he can even marry Fangping's sister. Your Jiang family will also prosper, not a loss. That's it, hurry up, don't waste time. No, before Warlord could finish, King Zhanwang punched out, and the innermost 3 halls of the Hall of Myriad Origins opened with a bang. 3 pitch-black passageways were revealed. King Zhanwang turned around, grabbed Warlord, and said casually, listen to me, go there and improve your strength. Your father will not harm you. If you die, then die. See if you can preserve your origin. After a few years, when I become an emperor, I will find a way to resurrect you. With a bang, the subduing heavenly king kicked him in. No! Warlord's voice was filled with despair, stopping abruptly. In an instant, he disappeared into a passage. This passage also collapsed in the blink of an eye. Jiang Hao was helpless. This can be discussed, King Zhanwang said impatiently. Why go through so much trouble? Remember, be careful yourself. Don't worry about that guy. His luck is not bad. Probably nothing will happen, but you guys are in more danger. Also, don't talk too much to him. If you talk too much, this guy will think too much and easily get into trouble. Fatty looks honest, likable, and knows little. This is a good thing. If you guys know too much, it's actually dangerous. I've said everything I need to say. Go as soon as possible, lest this fatty gets lost alone. Jiang Hao did not say anything else, took a step forward, and instantly disappeared into the passageway. The passageway collapsed. Thunder King did not say much. His eyes were complicated, and he stepped in. Some things should have an outcome. Seeing the 3 of them leave, the God Creation envoy stopped joking and said seriously, that place! How was it formed? King Zhanwang shook his head. Don't ask me. It might be because the war back then was too intense. The 9 emperors and 4 emperors were all participating in the war, And there was even the guy who created the origin, as well as many beginner martial artists, and a large number of people who broke through 8. It was understandable that there would be some mutations in the end. With so many powerhouses taking action, anything is possible. That's true. The God Creation Envoy looked at the collapsed passageway. You and I, it's not of much use to you and me, forget it. King Zhanwang did not continue this topic and quickly looked outside, saying softly, I'm more curious. What's going on with that kid Fong Ping? The God Creation Envoy raised his eyebrows and muttered, Maybe. King Zhenwang's eyebrows twitched, and he said in a low voice, I hope he's fine. This kid is not someone to be trifled with. When that time comes, he will flip the table and not care about this. It's up to him. The 2 top-notch powerhouses quickly fell into silence. There were some things that they knew more than others, but if they said it out loud, it might not be of any help. Instead, it might cause some trouble. P.S. Push a book. I am the Otherworld login device, a game masterpiece. Brothers can take a look. Chapter 1234. Magic City, Sky Island. Fong Ping was currently in closed-door cultivation on Sky Island. The system screen was black, but Fong Ping was not idling around. He had been studying his new path of origin for the past few days. Not only was he in closed-door cultivation, but he had also caught the gray cat to accompany him in closed-door cultivation. Naturally, he did not catch the cat to pet it. It was because the path that the gray cat took was similar to his path in general. He wanted to see if there was anything worth learning from. At this moment, Fong Ping was in the gray cat's cat world. The cat world was slightly bigger than before. The first time he entered the cat world, Fong Ping did not even have origin, so he did not have a deep feeling. This time, when he entered again, the feeling was completely different. He also had a source world, and he had traveled quite far. Entering again, the feeling was different. Behind him, the fat gray cat was wriggling. Fong Ping was curious. Was wriggling really easier than walking? Had this cat ever thought that wriggling would consume more energy? The fat gray cat wriggled, dragging a deep trench on the ground. Only this place could recover quickly. Otherwise, it would have become a lush slope crisscrossed by ravines long ago. Ignoring the cat, Fong Ping squatted down, grabbed a handful of soil and pinched the soil. It was extremely real, or rather, it really existed. It was different from Fong Ping's source world. Fong Ping's source world, other than a small area, was all fake soil. It was constructed by origin energy. As for the gray cat, its source world was constructed by origin soil. Fong Ping pinched a handful of soil and asked, Big cat, where did you get your origin soil? The gray cat that was wriggling behind him secretly ate a fish monster, then raised its head and said, I picked it up. Speak human language. The gray cat was depressed. It was speaking cat language. How could it speak human language? After thinking for a while, it muttered, I dug it up in the source universe. Sometimes I can see origin soil in the source universe. Sometimes when I see it, I dig some back. The reason why it dug the soil diligently was that the cat captain told it that digging soil to breed fish monsters could make them more delicious. Therefore, in those years, the gray cat dug a lot. The origin universe was huge, but things like origin soil weren't everywhere. If he was lucky, he would be able to find some. Fong Ping raised his head and looked at the sky. He could not see the universe outside, but he seemed to be deep in thought. He said, There's origin soil in the origin universe. That means there might be a world entirely constructed from origin soil. Are there people living in it? The cat replied lazily, I don't know. Haven't you seen it when you roam the origin? Nope. The old cat continued, Also, it's the origin form that roams the origin source, not the real body. Even if someone can roam the origin source and find a place with a lot of origin source soil, it's only the origin form that survives there. Fong Ping frowned slightly and thought for a while before saying, I don't think so. I asked you, old man. Although he can't roam the essence with his fleshly body right now, his fleshly body is illusory. According to him, given some time, he might be able to roam the essence world with his fleshly body. Big Cat, have you tried merging your body with the origin? Not yet. Should I give it a try? Fong Ping's gaze flickered slightly, and he smiled. Once the fleshly body has merged with the origin, people like us are almost invincible. Not just anyone can roam the origin world. If we encounter danger and hide in the origin universe, who can do anything to us? Not only that, in the origin world, merging the fleshly body means that we can unleash our full strength. As for the other party, when their fleshly body is outside, their strength will definitely be greatly weakened. In this way, those fellows with weak origin will be sending themselves to their deaths if they encounter us. If we encounter beginner martial artists, we can hide in the origin world and the other party can't do anything to us. The cat blinked. Was that so? Merging the fleshly body into the origin, Fong Ping continued. Our origin world is different from other people's. I'm thinking now, can our origin world be merged with the fleshly body in the end? Or should I say, become an inner world and be controlled and merged by our fleshly body? The cat expressed that he did not understand. As a cat, he could not be bothered to understand. Fong Ping smiled quickly and said, That's how it is to play the piano to a cat. Forget it. Let's not talk about this. Let me ask you, have you forged jade bones? The cat stared at him with widened eyes. After a while it said, No, doesn't that mean I've become a jade cat? Then, has your mentality gone through a qualitative change? Fong Ping looked at it again. He was actually very curious about how strong the cat's mentality was. This cat seemed to have never shown it before. It only pulled people into its cat world. It did not seem like it had been pulled into other people's origin world. Pulling people was related to mental strength. Qualitative change? I don't know. Fong Ping had expected it. The dumb cat did not know anything. It would be a waste of time to ask. The only thing he could do was to experience it directly. Fong Ping wanted to know how many hertz it would take to achieve a qualitative change in mentality. Fong Ping knew about the qualitative change in jade bones. It would require at least jade bones. What about mentality? What characteristics did it have? How strong did one's mentality have to be? Use your mentality to attack me and try. Fong Ping thought about it and felt that it was not appropriate. He was about to change his words and let the cat display it casually. In the next moment, Fong Ping's vision went black. He only felt that he did not know anything and was in a trance. In the cat world, the cat looked at the dazed Fong Ping with a look of innocence. You made me do it. I didn't want to do it. I didn't know you were so weak. Liars were so weak. The cat sighed. So mentality could be used like this? So it could beat people until they became stupid? This cat had never thought of beating people up like this. Just as the cat was sighing endlessly, Fong Ping's eyes gradually regained clarity. He looked at the cat, his expression fluctuating. He was actually deterred by mentality. One had to know that the current him had more than 20,000 hertz of mentality. Under normal circumstances, when one had just reached emperor level, their mentality was generally around 20,000 hertz. When he reached saint level, it would be close to 30,000 hertz. Fong Ping had seen heavenly kings before and had discussed them with old Zhang and the others. Old Zhang's mentality was considered strong, close to 40,000 hertz now. Powerhouses who had broken through 7 should be above 50,000 hertz. When one's mentality had reached this point, it was easy to deter some weak people. If the difference was too big, one could directly destroy the other party's mentality, turning them into a living dead. Their flesh would still be there, but it would not be a problem for their mentality to be obliterated. However, mentality deterrence was not omnipotent. For example, Fong Ping's vitality was strong, so he could withstand mentality deterrence. In the beginner martial lineage, some people walked the mentality path, while some walked the physique path. If one's mentality was not as good as the other party's, they would definitely die. Then, Those who walked the physique path would all be dead. If one's vitality was strong, mentality might not even be able to break the physical defense, so naturally it could not deter the other party. Similarly, for powerhouses who walked the mentality lineage, although their physical bodies were weak, it did not mean that they could kill the other party with a strong physical body. If one could not break the other party's mentality defense, one could not do anything to the other party either. Both of them had their own merits. However, there were not many martial artists who cultivated strong mentality. Most of them walked the physique path. For most powerhouses, the use of mentality was not in the path of attack, but in other areas. Consolidating the origin, developing the origin, these were the methods that most powerhouses used mentality. Fang Ping had not been suppressed by someone's mentality for a while, but today he was completely suppressed by the cat. How many hurts? Fang Ping murmured in his heart. He could not even sense it clearly. Fortunately, the cat was not hostile toward him. Otherwise, he would be in big trouble. Of course, this was related to the fact that his physical body was not here. This was his origin. If his physical body was here, the cat would not be able to suppress him with mentality so easily. Fang Ping looked at the cat, and the cat stared back at him with wide eyes, looking very innocent. Again, don't do it to me. Show me a little more. The cat condensed a ball of mentality, casually, like a ball of yarn. Fang Ping glanced at it and frowned slightly. After sensing it for a while, he said, "It's very tough. It feels like it has gone through a qualitative change. How many balls of yarn like this can you condense if you unleash all your mentality?" "A lot." "Be specific." The cat ate the ball of yarn in one bite. Fang Ping's mouth twitched as he watched. It ate everything. What was this cat thinking? "I can eat 1,000 of them." Fang Ping ignored it and murmured, "That ball just now, I'm afraid it's about 200 hertz." "If that's the case, 200 hertz?" Fang Ping was shocked. "That much?" "No, this might be mentality after a qualitative change. In other words, before the qualitative change, it might be 100,000 hertz? That could not be right. If this was the case after a qualitative change in mentality, then it would not have much effect on vitality. Could a qualitative change in mentality affect the changes in vitality? Did this cat transform into a jade bone, making its vitality stronger, or was it because of its mentality? However, very soon, the cat's words made Fang Ping understand a little. "Liar, having strong mentality is useless," the cat said suddenly. Fang Ping looked at it. The cat said casually, "Do you think mentality has gone through a qualitative change?" "I don't know if it is, but I remember that a long time ago mentality was mentality and vitality was vitality, but one day spiritual power suddenly turned into qi and blood, and then qi and blood became spiritual power." "What do you mean?" Fang Ping was stunned. The cat said innocently, "That's what I mean. Actually, the energy is the same. Didn't you notice?" "What energy is the same?" "It's vitality and mentality." Fang Ping was stunned for a moment. "Old Manly?" The cat looked at him, not quite understanding what he was doing. "Old Manly. 10,000 das as one," Fang Ping swallowed. He understood. He really understood. The cat was saying that after his mentality had gone through a qualitative change, the energy of vitality and mentality had become one, turning into a type of energy. It had just demonstrated that its mentality was powerful, but it was not just mentality. Or rather, it was also demonstrating its vitality energy. "You're saying that after mentality has gone through a qualitative change, the energy has actually become one," Fang Ping mumbled. The cat looked at him. "I didn't say it. You said it yourself. After the energy became one, there was a qualitative change, and not a qualitative change in mentality that triggered a qualitative change in vitality." The cat continued to look at him. "You said it yourself. I didn't say it either." So, in the end, everything is still about becoming one. Fang Ping felt something again. At his level, the thing he felt the most at this moment was becoming one. He was probably not the only one who felt it. Powerhouses who had reached this level all had some understanding. Different paths led to the same destination. All powerhouses who walked different paths would eventually reach the point of becoming one. As for what kind of energy came out of this becoming one, perhaps it depended on one's own bias. It was said that the 4 emperors of extreme path had taken an extreme path. Celestial Emperor walked the path of the flesh. However, Fang Ping was wondering if Celestial Emperor could convert his vitality into mentality. Maybe it was possible. When the vitality had gone through a qualitative change to that point, it might be possible. Similarly, could Celestial Emperor Annihilate's mentality be converted into vitality force? It should be possible. However, they might not have completely reached the point of becoming one. If they had, perhaps the form of energy would not be different, but the same. The great path becomes one, the energy becomes one. After the qualitative change in mentality, instead of saying that the vitality has become stronger, it's better to say that the mentality has integrated into the vitality, causing the vitality to change. Fang Ping took a deep breath, looked at the cat again, and asked, "Your mentality is so strong. If you use it alone, can you intimidate heavenly kings?" The cat was confused. "I don't know. I've never tried. 200,000 hertz. Although the energy has become one, mentality can still be separated. In that case, you might be able to suppress heavenly kings." Fang Ping said in a low voice, "Ordinary heavenly kings only have tens of thousands of hertz of mentality. You're a few times more than them." The cat thought for a while and said, "They also have other energy enhancements, mentality, vitality force, origin force." Fang Ping nodded, but still said, "Even so, your mentality is terrifyingly strong. How did you do it?" "I became stronger when I slept." Fang Ping wanted to say nonsense, but after thinking about it, he was too lazy to scold it. He squatted down and touched the origin soil. Fang Ping had some understanding in his heart. Maybe it had something to do with the expansion of the source world. The expansion of the cat's source world and the origin soil strengthened its foundation. This might be the trigger for its strong mentality. In that case, this cat might not have forged jade bones. Fang Ping suddenly patted the cat's head. The cat looked at him. "Why did you hit me?" Once the jade bone transforms, the source world expands by 1,000 meters. Maybe there's another qualitative change. 2 qualitative changes? It's close to 4 million calories now. After 2 qualitative changes, wouldn't it be more than 16 million calories? Fang Ping stared at the cat. If this cat worked hard, there might be another 2 chances for qualitative changes. As for jade bones and the source world, Fang Ping felt that it was not too far away. Was this considered a good preparation? In the first tens of thousands of years, the cat was not considered too strong. However, when it reached a critical point, it became strong in all aspects and would undergo metamorphosis again and again. Was this the benefit of this path? All-round improvement? Breakthrough 7 or even 8? Fang Ping looked at the slightly curved path in the distance again. There was origin force seeping over. Could this cat still borrow the strength of this source path to increase its strength? Maybe everyone had underestimated the cat. 30,000 years of accumulation had put it at an explosive point. If this cat was given a little more time, perhaps there would be an earth-shattering change in its strength. As for himself, Fang Ping's gaze changed. Maybe he could also undergo rapid metamorphosis and quickly transform himself to this realm. Origin soil. Maybe I need a lot of origin soil to complete such a transformation. The expansion of the source world without things like the Heavenly King seal may still need to integrate the Earth's cities to complete it. Thinking of this, Fang Ping said quickly, "Big cat, I'll give you a mission. Get me some origin soil." The cat looked reluctant. It was so troublesome. "I'll give you origin force. Use origin force to exchange for origin soil. Origin force can be used to grow a fish-headed monster." As Fong Ping said that, he suddenly asked, "Can I roam the source?" He was similar to the cat. The cat could do it, but what about him? He had not tried it before. The cat shook its head. "I don't know. You'll know when you fly and see for yourself." Fong Ping's gaze moved slightly. At this time, the sky above the cat's cat world suddenly cracked open. The cat said happily, "Liar, do you want to fly together and see?" Fong Ping was also tempted. Very quickly, he and the cat soared into the sky, flying toward the vast source universe. The moment they flew out of the cat world, Fong Ping looked back. The cat world was like a drop of water in the sea, almost without any form. This was Fong Ping's first time flying out of the source planet and toward the source universe. At this moment, Fong Ping only felt the vastness and loneliness. This was like a dead universe. There was no life, no human voice, only loneliness. The cat seemed very excited. Perhaps it was lonely too. In the past, it was the only cat roaming and wandering in this vast universe. Today, there was one more person. However, after flying for a while, Fong Ping's expression changed. "No, I feel like I'll get lost soon." Not only did Fong Ping feel that he was lost, but he also felt his origin body dissipating. If this went on, once he was lost in the universe, his origin body would overflow, and without replenishment, he might die. The cat also noticed that something was wrong with him. It turned its head and gave him a look, a little regretful. Its origin fluctuated. "Liar, you and your source world haven't merged into one. You'll get lost." It was a pity that Fong Ping could not leave. There was no way he could walk in the source universe. If this went on, Fong Ping would soon disappear in the universe. The cat was a little disappointed. In this dark and lonely universe, perhaps it was still the only cat walking. The cat stopped roaming. Its tail wrapped around Fong Ping, and it quickly flew toward its own cat world. After a while, Fong Ping returned with some lingering fear. "I can't leave for too long, or else I'll dissipate easily." The cat nodded its big head, saying regretfully, "Yes, or else you could go play with me. I've always wanted to find the door, but I'm just a cat. No one will bring me along, so I don't want to go." "What door?" "The door that's blocking the road." The cat said curiously, "I also want to see what the door blocking the road looks like. Once, I seem to have seen the door flash by, just in the cat world, but there is no one to accompany me. I don't want to look for it." Fong Ping frowned. "Is the Sanjiao Gate really in the source world? Does it have a real entity?" "It should be." The cat was still in a daze, so it was not very clear. It said casually, "We should be able to find it. Look for a few hundred stars. You didn't see these stars, but they're all moving in the same direction. If we follow that direction, keep flying, we might be able to find it." "The end of the road?" "I don't know." The cat wagged its tail. "Liar, let's go find the door together next time, okay? Why do you want to find the door?" "Draw a cat." The cat was delighted, its face swollen from laughing. "Draw 3 big cats. 2 is fine too. I'll leave 1 door for you to draw yourself. In the future, when others cultivate, they can always see me and you." Fong Ping was stunned for a moment. It seemed to make sense. That was right. What could be more fun than this? From now on, anyone who cultivated the Sanjiao Gate would be able to see him and the cat. As long as this road was still there and this source was not destroyed, then all the source martial artists would be able to see him. Fong Ping suddenly had an idea. If he went to the end of the road now, found the 3 doors, and wrote "Fong Ping is invincible" on the door, would there be any changes in the Sanjiao Gate of all the source powerhouses in the 3 realms? Would it be reflected? If so, then it would be really awesome. Fong Ping swallowed his saliva. What a great goal. He was a little tempted. Brain, nucleus. The brain nucleus fuses with the source, fusing the source and the body into one. I think I understand now. Fong Ping once again understood many things on this day. As for the old cat, although its explanation was vague, it also brought Fong Ping endless inspiration. After leaving the cat world, Fang Ping began to consolidate the source. He tried to integrate the brain nucleus and enter the source world. This time, the system upgrade lasted for a long time. After 3 days of closed-door cultivation, Fang Ping did not wait for the system upgrade. He prepared to take advantage of this period to do something else. For example, integrating Magic City. For example, looking for Heavenly King Zhen to discuss the forging method of jade bones. On the 16th of May, Fang Ping walked out of the closed-door cultivation. He did not go anywhere else. On this day, he began to walk around Magic City. He wanted to try to integrate Magic City into his source world, strengthen the source, and expand the world. This time it was very difficult. Magic City was much, much bigger than Sun City. Integrating Magic City, Fang Ping felt that his source world might undergo a major expansion. Fang Ping still discovered the difference between his path and the cat's. His source world had a city, but the cat did not, and this might be different in the future. Fang Ping did not know whether the source world integrating a city was good or bad, but he knew that this was an ability derived from the Emperor Path. At least at this time, it was good for Fang Ping and not bad. Magic City. Since coming to Magic City 3 years ago, Fang Ping had spent most of his time in Magic City. This place could be considered as his second hometown. He had experienced many, many things here. He had met many people, made many friends, had regrets, and had exciting moments. Until today, Fang Ping finally had the time in a real sense to tour Magic City for the first time without rushing. He saw many acquaintances, even saw a company with a distance signboard, and saw Li Qingze, whom he met when he first came to Magic City. Fang Ping had almost forgotten all of this. Everything was like a dream. 3 years ago, he came to Magic City alone. He wanted to conquer a world that belonged to him. He, who was short of money, wanted to build a big business empire at that time. He had many dreams. He even thought of delivering fast food in the catacombs on a whim. Today, looking back, it was a little funny, a little childish, but also full of memories. At that time, perhaps it was his happiest time. In the distance building, Li Qingze, who was busy, suddenly had an idea. He walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and looked down. He seemed to see someone, but he did not. He was a little dazed, a little absent-minded. 3 years. 3 years ago, he was an aspiring martial artist. Today, he had achieved rank 6. Everything was because of Fang Ping. Rank 6 now seemed like nothing. However, Li Qingze did not forget who he was working for. He was working for that legend, working for that savior. He was the representative of the King of Man. It had been a long, long time. Fang Ping did not come again because he was too busy. Everyone knew that the King of Man was so busy that he was tired. Fang Ping, after murmuring. Li Qingze's expression was complicated. 3 years ago, did he ever think that he would have this day? Below, Fang Ping stopped for a moment. He did not stay any longer, continuing to wander among the crowd. In the past, he only had a small family. Today, his small home had grown from one family to an entire race, the entire earth. If that was the case, it did not matter whether he went to distance to take a look. I only hope that this prosperous era continues, Fang Ping murmured. This sigh came from the bottom of his heart. It was the same sigh as the MCMAU grandmasters who walked out of the catacombs years ago.